The final day is upon us. After enduring a week of pain and pressure throughout the Golden State, American Levi Leipheimer's quest to become King of California is almost complete. Leipheimer is 100 miles away from winning his third consecutive Amgen Tour of California, and it's up to his Astana teammates to shepherd him through the mountains outside San Diego. The Herculean hurdle on the horizon today is Mount Palomar, often called the Alpe d'Huez of Southern California. Its 21 turns and over 5,000 feet of elevation are almost a carbon copy of Europe's legendary climb. But the peloton never gives anything away. Nipping at Levi's heels are David Zabriskie of Garmin Slipstream and Columbia High Road's Michael Rogers. In only its fourth year of existence, this has become one of the most coveted titles in cycling. At the end of the day, someone will wear the crown. After 750 miles of crisscrossing California, Escondido is set to welcome our cyclists. The final finish of this year's Amgen Tour of California. Both the riders and fans have done their part. Record numbers out on the road, and the excitement will continue to build as we await today's lunge for the line. Well, they have sent us out here a couple hours early, but as you can hear, the fans already starting to show up. Hello, everyone. Along with the encyclopedia and thesaurus of cycling, Phil Liggett and Paul Sherwen, I'm Craig Hummer. Phil, as you know, 8 days of record racing already in the books, but countless moments to get us here. Levi Leipheimer in yellow, but he's had to earn it.
Well, we always thought this fourth Amgen Tour of California would be pretty special. The weather turned out to be the big talking point in the early days, but let's go back to Sacramento a week ago when Fabian Cancellara won the prologue time trial. And he looked to be a solid leader, but the next day he will be out of the race with sickness. And the next day, Paul, on the long road to Santa Rosa, the rain was with us.
The rain was with us, but Francesco Mancebo had the sunshine on his side, because when he came to the line, he got himself the stage victory and the overall lead. What everybody had been waiting for many years was to ride over the Golden Gate Bridge, and the race did that on stage 2.
Yes, and on the road to Santa Cruz, on the Bonnie Doon climb, Levi Leipheimer launched an attack which probably has won in this Tour of California. Finished second on the day to Tom Peterson, but he pulled on the race leader's yellow jersey.
Going further down the line, it was going to be a very dangerous Amgen Tour of California. Levi Leipheimer was right in the middle of that stack, but he got up and continued to ride. But it was a day for the sprinters. Tor Hushoff, the big god of thunder, he came straight out of the pack.
Yes, the sprinters were having their say at the moment, and the yellow jersey was staying with Levi Leipheimer. The crashes continued too. Oscar Freire, Kim Kirken going out of the race in this one. But at the finishing line, the Manx missile was home, and in came Mark Cavendish, the first of 2 days of success.
Well, the next day it was déjà vu, because Mark Cavendish was faster than any of the other sprinters once again. But after that, the time trial in Solvang was spectacular.
Armstrong was back, and the crowds were double in numbers in Solvang, and what they witnessed was Levi Leipheimer winning the event for the third time. Now will he win the Amgen Tour of California for the same number of times? Consolidating his yellow lead overall. He is now a man really in charge of this event, Craig.
Leipheimer puts his stamp of authority on Solvang and the time trial that increased his lead to 36 seconds. It's now David Zabriskie in second place. Michael Rogers has dropped to third, 45 seconds back. Jens Voigt and Thomas Lokfus round out the top 5, but there's Lance Armstrong, Phil in 6th.
Yes, Lance has had a very, very good tour, and don't forget he's riding in defense of the leader of the race, his teammate Levi Leipheimer. Tommy D is back. He sits there in 11th place. Frank Schleck, we saw a lot of action from him yesterday, is 15th. Christian van der Velde also riding well. He sits in 18th. Floyd Landis not terribly happy with his position in 32nd place there.
The riders starting to show some wear and tear, as are we. I know you're under the weather, my friend, so we'll try to limit the amount of time you have to talk. But let's talk the course today. The organizers had a clear goal in mind, it seems, and perhaps a bit of a mean streak when they put up today's stage.
I'd have to say a very nasty 50 streak. They've obviously taken a page out of the Tour de France organization's book by leaving a serious sting in the tail. Riders leaving Rancho Bernardo this morning for a very circuitous route around to finish in Escondido, but there, right in the middle, you have a look at that big mountain. It's 4,200 feet of climbing, 21 switchbacks. It is going to be extremely difficult. If you're feeling a bit weak today, you're not going to get up that mountain.
Well, the goal for Astana and Levi Leipheimer, Phil, is simple. Protect those precious seconds. But as Paul just mentioned, for his pursuers, they're going to have ample opportunity.
Yeah, there's a great chance here for riders now to go out and win the stage at least. Leipheimer knows he'll be attacked on the long climb. It's a very steep climb. The race will split up. One thing's for sure, Craig, it won't be a sprint of the day.
And another thing to keep in mind, Paul, is that of the 17 teams that have come here, 10 still have not walked away with anything. There are only 7 teams who have won something.
There'll be a lot of guys looking for a win. Fabian Cancellara's had his win. Mancebo's had a win. Peterson and Hushoff have had stage victories. Cavendish, well, he's a man. He's got 2 stage wins under his belt.
Levi Leipheimer, well, he got his time to win. He's now won 5 stages historically, equals J.J. Hayedo's record there. Nocentini won yesterday with a very crafty ride, but there's still room for just one more winner today.
Earlier this morning, the stage started in Rancho Bernardo, the final start town of the 2009 Amgen Tour of California. And as expected, Phil, all the jerseys lined up in front.
Yes, 95 left in the field of 136 originally as they chat here. New lead in the King of the Mountains on the right. Jason McCartney chatting with Levi Leipheimer. Tom Bonen and Sven Tuft, the non-starters today. So if it were to be a sprint, there'd be no worry there for Mark Cavendish. Lance Armstrong, a part of the Astana team and the only full team left in the race.
Floyd Landis on the far time having a little chat with Dave Zabriskie, but I'll tell you one thing, as soon as the red flag came in, Phil, the attacks started straight away.
Steven Koza, there's the American flag. We've seen a lot of those out on the road today. Here it is after the neutral start went down. Steven Koza of Garmin Slipstream. Jason McCartney in the California Travel and Tourism King of the Mountain jersey today because of Mancebo's accident yesterday. He would fly off as well, Phil.
Yes, well, we're only 3 miles from the top of the first climb of the day, and here's the summit, and it's the new leader in the King of the Mountains showing his worthiness of leading the jersey after Mancebo crashed out yesterday. Jason McCartney over the top ahead of his teammate Andy Schleck and Ben Jacquemain in third.
For a very rapid start onto the second climb of the day. Well, then now we've got a lead group going off the front end of the main field, still there led by Jason McCartney. Ben Jacquemain getting himself second place over the summit, just ahead of Serge Pauwels and Andy Schleck rolling across in 4th place.
This is what we had expected coming into today. We've already had 1 sprint bonus, and part of those breakaways, it didn't seem as though it was much of a sprint for the line, Phil.
No, because they're trying to consolidate here now. This is literally moments ago. There are 7 leaders in this group. They've just come together. McCartney is still there, Serge Pauwels, Ben Jacquemain. We look now at the live pictures down there. Andy Schleck, Carlos Burrido, Frank Matthias and Steph Clement. They're the leaders at the moment. There's the situation in the King of the Mountains. McCartney now getting clear of Tyler Hamilton. 39 points is his overall total. We can tell you, by the way, that Paulo Mancebo, who crashed yesterday, was temporarily unconscious and has apparently broken his thumb and a possible also broken bone in the hand. So that really was a heavy tumble.
Just looking at the leading group here, this has really been a race completely and utterly under pressure since they started about an hour and 20 minutes ago. They really have been throwing all caution to the wind here. A lot of pressure coming from Team Saxo Bank. Obviously, Jason McCartney on the front there, the leader of the King of the Mountains classification, is looking to maybe turn the tables and look for a stage victory for his team out on the open road. I think, Craig, it's now just starting to stabilize a fraction. Guys, thinking about a short amount of respite before we get to the big climb of the day, and that's going to be Palomar Mountain.
We're only a few moments away from that climb up Palomar, starting over 12 miles away. You can see the severity, the reason it is a beyond category or category climb. The breakaway has about 30 seconds on the peloton at the moment. Yesterday was a day of attacks as well. One man in the break was Christian Vande Velde. He spoke with Bob Roll earlier this morning.
Christian Vande Velde, a couple of hard tumbles for the team yesterday. How are the riders doing besides Swain, who's out?
Yeah, Swain took the worst one. I mean, actually, Tom didn't even crash. He was like a cat. I don't know. His bike was gone, but he was on his feet somehow. We don't know. But Swain, he took the brunt of that, and he's an amazing rider. And so we're really just looking out for him. He's going to have a long spring, a long summer ahead of him. So his best interest is just to hang tight and chill out.
Pretty hard course for the racers today on the last day. Maybe the hardest stage of the whole Amgen Tour of California this year. Any chances to attack from the team and chip away a little bit at the lead of Levi Leipheimer?
Yeah, I mean, it's just gonna be like yesterday. It's gonna be a replay of yesterday, but just exponentially harder. So it's gonna be. Well, we have no idea. You know, I mean, this is unknown, especially in February. You don't know how your body's gonna react after a really hard week of racing already. And you know, Palomar is up to over 5,000 feet, so you know your body starts reacting differently at high altitudes and stuff like that. So it's gonna be good. I guarantee one thing: it's gonna be a good show.
All right, thanks a lot, Christian. Good luck.
All right, thanks, man.
We are definitely looking forward to the show as well. These are the mountains that they're heading to, Palomar part of it. When we come back, we are going to bring you that climb up Palomar, 5,000 feet of elevation. The snow has melted, but that certainly doesn't mean the action will not be on fire. The 2009 Amgen Tour of California on Versus is brought to you by AEG, giving the world reason to cheer. By EAS, don't waste your workout, finish it with EAS Myoplex. By Amgen, Amgen pioneering science delivers vital medicines. Visit us at amgen.com. And by Breakaway from Cancer. No one should have to face cancer alone. Go to breakawayfromcancer.com.
Amgen's mission is to serve patients. We really feel it in the daily work that we do.
We rely on hardcore basic science in novel pathways that create revolutionary medicines.
When I go into a pharmacy, I see lots of medicines. I now have a very visceral and personal appreciation for how long, how difficult, and how many people have to work together to make something like that happen.
Just amazing, the technology that there is today and the stuff that they're able to invent.
We try to fight serious illnesses by attacking them in as many ways as possible.
I think about the scientists and the people who are spending their career and their life creating these drugs, and I'd like to just say thank you to all of them.
We set a standard that other biotechs strive for. You can't do that unless you have a company that's full of people with that type of drive, that type of desire to do the right thing.
All right, class, let's button it. Becker.
Here.
Callahan. Callahan. Delivery confirmation on Callahan.
Drop him off at 8:15.
Gymnasium.
No, sir, no Callahan.
Always.
No Callahan. Just a freshman.
Thank you.
No emails from his parents. Drivers, I need a 20 on Callahan. Got him. Reroute him straight to detention.
Get more done now with the new BlackBerry Curve, the only BlackBerry Curve with Nextel Direct Connect.
Every fighter deals with fear. It starts before you even leave the locker room. In the tunnel, it gets worse. Your heart starts beating to the rhythm of the fans. It's a long walk to that cage. And once you get there, you realize you still have to face me. What do I fear? I'll let you know when I find it.
No Fear Energy.
How much sugar is in these energy drinks? Let's find out. While waiting, you should know. 5-Hour Energy contains 0 sugar and only 4 calories. Its blend of B vitamins and amino acids can help you feel awake, alert, and productive for hours without the crash or jitters. The answer is 12. Over 12 teaspoons of sugar and 200 calories in these energy drinks. 0 sugar and 4 calories in 5-Hour Energy. There's a reason people choose 5-Hour Energy 2.5 million times a week. 5-Hour Energy. Hours of energy now, no crash later.
One punch stunned WEC featherweight champion Uriah Faber and shocked the world.
I don't believe what I just saw.
Now, newly crowned champ Mike Brown.
It's been a long road, man.
Makes his first defense against #1 contender, Texas bad boy, Leonard Garcia.
At 145, who wants some? I want me a title shot.
The WEC on Versus. Next Sunday at 9/8 Central.
A quick update of the jerseys, Phil. They pretty much all stayed the same except for that California Travel and Tourism King of the Mountain jersey.
Yes, unlucky for Mancebo, but happiness for Jason McCartney. He's ridden well today, too. He's topped the first 2 climbs so far.
Levi Leipheimer's had yellow for a number of days. This morning, Bob Roll had a chance to speak with him.
You've ridden an absolutely flawless Amgen Tour of California so far, but one more very hard day to go.
Well, I don't know about flawless. I remember a moment there when I fell over a wheel. That hurt, but no, the team is ridden flawless. I'll agree with that. And one more day, it's going to be tough, but we're super motivated. We had a great meeting in the bus, and the atmosphere is really positive.
Seems like there could be some strong attacks from the field. A lot of guys not that close, but close enough to worry about.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that are, close enough to worry about, and everybody's going to try to break the race open, but we got to stick together like a band of brothers and hold on tight.
All right, best of luck, Levi.
Thank you.
Levi Leipheimer knows quite well what has to be done, a veteran of so many years in the peloton. Phil, he could be a few hours away from confirming his place in history with that 3rd consecutive Amgen Tour of California win.
Yes, like all leaders on the final day, you don't want to be appearing too overconfident. The race is not finished yet. And we've had a very good attacking day so far. Astana have been up to everything. They've been under pressure, but they've marshaled the moves. And this little group now, which is up front, is 7 riders strong. They're actually climbing here, the base of the mountain, but it's not the official start of the climb. Andy Schleck's been in the move all day. Jason McCartney has as well. He's won both climbs so far. Barredo has come up. Steph Clements come up. Serge Powell's rather, was in the move all day. And Matthias Frank has come up, and Ben-Jacques Main has been up there as well all day. They're heading towards the feed now, and then once to the feed, officially, they do start the climb of the Palomar Mountain. Now, these grades in America, Paul, are not like the European climb, the Pyrenees, the Alps. They're not quite as steep, are they?
No, but this is a longer mountain. Don't underestimate it. It's a climb of around about 11.8 miles of climbing. It climbs up 4,200 feet in elevation alone. And the climb itself, yes, okay, the gradient is not so massive at 7%, but a lot of guys will suffer because of the altitude at the summit, which is 5,100 feet. There will be some guys throwing out the sandbags in the main field, just trying to stay in contention.
Christian Vande Velde, we heard, said to Bob Roll this morning, it really is going to be a test for a lot of these riders early on in the season. No one's really quite sure of their form. I certainly can say Levi Leipheimer has proved his form day in and day out. But the other thing that makes this climb interesting, Phil, as I told you earlier on this week, I did this climb about a month ago, is that it's actually in 2 sections. You go through this section in the lower part where the gradient isn't as bad, making their way through the feed zone, taking on the necessary fuel as they will continue to attack this summit. But it goes through this first part where the gradient is not as bad. Then there's actually a false flat for a little bit. In fact, even a little bit of downhill. And then you go into the major section, the final section where those 21 turns are.
That's right. And that's why they don't officially start the climb until we get over the top of this false approach. We don't see too much of the Grim Reaper today because it's going to be quite a painful climb up here. A lot of guys might feel that they're about to pass into the next world before we get to the top. Thin air, as Paul says.
Definitely thin air once you get up to the top. But I think now, after what was an incredible start, the first hour and a half of racing was absolutely full on with attacks coming from all quarters. It's now settling down into a comfortable tactical situation once again for Team Astana. Yes, there's a group of 7 riders we're looking at here, and they've got themselves now, Phil, around about a 2.5 minute advantage. But the best placed rider in this leading group, in fact, is Ben-Jacques Main, and he started at a 24th overall, and he's looking for almost 7 minutes. So no alarm bells just yet.
No, not at all, just yet. Chance to have a look at the peloton here. It's been a tough day to try and organize the control of the peloton by Astana, but they've finally done it now. They had a little bit of a problem earlier on because Jakovic had a puncture, and the boys had to slow down and reorganize. There's somebody flown up off the inside. That was Rock Racing launching an attack. I'm not sure whether it was in fact Enrique. It wasn't Enrico Gazira, so it must have been Chris Baldwin gone there.
Well, I didn't quite glimpse who was leaping out of the front, but certainly I have to say Rock Racing have been very aggressive, Phil, over the last couple of days.
164,
well, in fact, it was
correct?
Enrique Gutierrez. I thought it wasn't him. I couldn't see the flashes on his jersey of a former Spanish champion, but it is Gutierrez. favourite terrain for him as the Spanish rider tries to get a reaction from the field here, because you see as soon as this road has started to go up, a lot of teams have started to hurt this field. This is going to be a very good climb today, and they've got to be up to it.
A rider from Ouch presented by Maxis as well, coming up behind Gutierrez. We saw Floyd Landis, speaking of that team Ouch presented by Maxis, saw Floyd Landis, Paul, earlier try to break away a couple times, and they would just not let him go.
Very often in a stage race, riders will hold a fraction back because they know they've got to get out and get going through the next day's racing, but there is no next day's racing today. This is the final day of the Amgen Tour of California, and you can dig very deep into your reserves here because you know you don't have to recuperate and race again tomorrow. So there will be a lot of guys really giving it their all this afternoon.
That number 103, or is it 105,
Tim
guys?
Johnson. No, it's Tim Johnson.
103, Tim Johnson.
Gone and read that very, very well.
So Tim Johnson has bridged up to Enrique Gutierrez. The peloton going through the feed zone. Absolutely essential to take this fuel on. It's no longer, as Paul just mentioned, about tomorrow. It's about getting through today's stage. After they finish Palomar, they still have that cold grade road climb at the very end. And I think that's where a lot of the climbers feel that's the final place for them to attack.
Certainly, it's ideally situated at around about 15 miles to go to the finish with an undulating set of false flats after the top of that. But this climb here will be the first major sort out, and this will be the climb that the sprinters will be very scared about, because guys like Mark Cavendish and Thor Hushoff, they were going to wonder whether or not they'll be able to stay in the pack or if they're going to trail home on the final day of the Amgen Tour.
3 guys abandoned at the start of this climb. Gel Carlson of Liquigas has gone, Daniel Oss of Liquigas, and another man from Fly-V Australia, Robert Gunn. There is only one rider left in that team now, and that is Ben Day.
Well, we won't get a chance, Paul, to talk to Tom Bonin after today's stage. He abandoned the race after yesterday's stage. He's on his way home. But how would you rate his Amgen Tour of California?
Well, Bonin, I think, came up against a very rapid Mark Cavendish, and he realizes that Mark Cavendish is probably the start of a new era. But don't forget, I think Tom Bonin's goals are a little bit further down the year in the month of April. Races like, of course, the Tour of Flanders, which is his home national championships, if you like, or even world championships for the Belgians. And, of course, the big race Paris-Roubaix, which are not on the horizon for a guy like Mark Cavendish.
Watching a study of climbing talent here now as Gutierrez continues to set a rhythm. He's got a little bit of a way to go to cross the gap. The last time check we got to the 7 leaders, they had 2 minutes over the main field. And now we've started the big climb, not of the day, but of this year's Amgen Tour of California.
The peloton now 2 minutes and 30 seconds back. We continue to build up to the biggest climb in this year's Amgen Tour of California. The gradients, as we've said, may not be like Europe, but the fans have turned out just like it is the Tour de France, continually out on the road. The flags have been flying, the cowbells have been rung, and hey, that's a way to work off some weight right there.
Exclusively available through your Herbalife independent distributor. Herbalife, nutrition for a better life.
Come experience the final stage of the world-famous Amgen Tour of California on February 22nd. Watch Lance Armstrong and other top cyclists kick it off in Rancho Bernardo, a place to explore and experience. San Diego North, where there's room to fill your senses. For more information, visit sandiegonorth.com/Amgen or call 800-848-3336.
Critics everywhere have been shocked and awed by the Chasers' war on everything. It's a hilarious jab at anything and everything.
Stefano, what do you call Al-Qaeda?
Funny and savage.
I had no idea he was in there.
As politically incorrect as possible.
By this stage, it's become pretty bloody obvious the cops weren't going to stop us.
War has been declared.
Everywhere I go, I get nothing but prejudice.
The Chasers' War on Everything. All new Wednesday at 9. Part of Duty Free TV on G4.
Well, as long as you're on the bull's back, you're in pretty good shape.
I mean, you practice to ride, but you need to also practice to get off because you need to live to ride another day.
Sugar-free Tic Tac Gel, the perfect balance of taste and freshness.
If the Quarter Pounder with cheese was going to run a marathon, it wouldn't even train. It would think, I'm 100% beef and 2 slices of cheese. I taste great. I can do this. Then it would just show up on race day in tiny shorts and give it a go. It wouldn't even bother stretching, just to mess with you. The Quarter Pounder with cheese is cheese and beef and cheese, and that's what's up.
The way I see it, all synthetic oils are the same.
Think with your dipstick, Jimmy!
Think with your dipstick. Upgrade to new Castrol Edge. With 8 times better wear protection than Mobil 1 5W30. It's more than just oil, it's liquid.
You know why I like Toyota SUVs? Because they're great for taking you skiing, sledding, snowmobiling, salsa dancing, spelunking, swimming, sailing, skating, and that's just the S's. Camping, chopping wood, exploring, mountain climbing, bird watching, etc., etc., etc. Plus, they get great fuel economy, so they're practical for everyday stuff, too, like going to work, getting the dog groomed, picking up dry cleaning, and pretty much anything else.
Now you can get $3,000 cash back on Highlander and Highlander Hybrid, or choose $1,500 cash back on the Toyota RAV4. Only at these neighborhood Toyota stores.
Thought you couldn't afford a hot tub? Well, ThermoSpa's designed one that's energy efficient and requires no costly installation. You simply plug it in and fill it with a garden hose. To learn how you can own a custom-built hot tub, call for a free DVD and information catalog, and we'll include a gift coupon for free delivery and installation. ThermoSpa's offers many features found on no other hot tub. Why? Because it's not just a hot tub, it's a ThermoSpa's.
Taking a look at the San Diego Wild Animal Park, an 1,800-acre wildlife preserve. It opened all the way back in 1972, is really part of the Zoological Society of San Diego. And Phil, they've helped remove the white rhinos from the endangered species list. It's one of those natural environments where you can go see a number of animals in a variety of ways.
The riders must have wondered what was happening here when they passed this early today. The elephants down there, we've seen Cape water buffalo, we've seen rhino. Here, are we in San Diego?
We are on the outskirts of San Diego. A lot of things to see in this great Southern California town. At the moment, we have 7 men off the front. This is the peloton being driven now by Garmin Slipstream as well as Astana, trying to keep that gap at a manageable distance, Paul, of 2.5 minutes.
This is Christian van der Velde on the front. You might have been caught out there because he's actually wearing the Amgen Courageous jersey there at the front end of the peloton.
Astana and Lance Armstrong sitting there in 3rd position. Bob was busy this morning. He spoke with Lance about how the Amgen Tour of California has been going so far.
For your own comeback, how's it going after a pretty hard week of racing?
It's been hard. The weather was tough in the beginning. A lot of guys nervous with the weather. Crashes. There's been a lot of crashes even up until yesterday. Hasn't been easy. I mean, this race, I think a lot of guys focused on the race, which makes it hard. So you saw an aggressive style of racing, and at the end of the week, you know, we're down to less than 100 guys now. I think we're going to start with probably close to 90 guys today, and at the end of the stage, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, final classification has 40 or 50 guys on it. So that tells you that it made us tired.
Some really hard climbs and a very tough stage to finish off the Amgen Tour this year. How are you guys feeling?
It was flat circuits around San Diego.
Not exactly. There's a couple of climbs out there. Do you guys expect some attacks perhaps today?
I think we expect a flurry of attacks. I mean, this is people's last opportunity to either win the race, win a stage, have an impact on the race. So it's gonna be hard.
Best of luck, man.
Thank you.
The pace has certainly been on since the beginning, Phil, and 2 men who have helped push it are from Saxo Bank, Andy Schleck and Jason McCartney.
Saxo Bank said they were going to give Astana a very uncomfortable weekend, and they did it yesterday, and they're doing it again today. 2 riders spearheading today for them, Andy Schleck and Jason McCartney.
Yes, this is also, Phil, I have to say, again, a very solid group going off the front with Carlos Barredo in there. He's a man who we've seen finish high in races like the Giro d'Italia and the Tour of Spain. Staff Clement is a solid professional. He's in there for Team Rabobank. And, of course, put in Ben-Jacques Maine, who is trying to ride himself a little bit higher up in the overall classification. But I think today maybe looking for a little bit of glory because he starts the day more than 7 minutes behind the position of Levi Leipheimer.
This is one of those days, as we mentioned, with 10 teams still to taste any sort of victory here at the Amgen Tour of California. They could try to take a flyer as best they can. It's where we are in the climb at the moment. Ben-Jacques Maine and his group at the 37.9 mile mark, about a half mile back, is the yellow jersey, Phil.
Well, there's a situation at the moment. Ben-Jacques Maine is having a good day. You remember the last time he was on the break down the Pacific Highway, his brother Andy was on his way to hospital, which was a real shame. But Ben did a great day on his way to his hometown there, San Jose.
Looks here as if, as we see the time gap there at around about 2.5 minutes, Christian van der Velde has come to the front here to put a bit of pressure onto the shoulders of these guys here. They're also trying to keep themselves high up in the team classification as well. The leaders, they're pretty much ensconced on the climb, and you might just have noticed up to the right-hand side, the crowds. Many people have actually spent the night up here to get themselves a good spot, especially as we go a little further up the climb, and they've been out camping.
A little bit of a twister now as we start to make our way up the mountain here, and it gets steeper as we get higher. And these riders are sensibly riding this mountain because I suspect that big pack behind, and Christian van der Velde is driving it at the moment, they might try to break up pretty soon. All Astana will do is go with the moves if they're important. And I think, you know, when Lance Armstrong said 50-50 finishes maybe, he could be right here.
Yeah, this is a real grueling final stage. And as one of the two of the riders was saying before the start, they actually don't know how their bodies are going to react to this high mountain in the early part of the year, because a lot of these riders are only just starting off their 2009 campaigns, and 5,100 feet is pretty high for the month of February.
And if you remember yesterday, Paul, we had Jonathan Vaughters, the director of Garmin Slipstream, in here, and while he watched the end of the race, he was a little bit frustrated as to how Christian seemed to, his lack of attacking, so to speak. But as Christian told reporters at the end of the day, he was on the rivet the whole day.
They would, you know, Phil said just before that Team Saxo Bank had said they were going to give Team Astana a hard ride this weekend. They weren't going to let Levi Leipheimer ride down here to San Diego in an armchair to get himself his third consecutive victory. And true to their word, they were on the attack yesterday, and they're right on the attack again today. Two riders in the leading group for Team Saxo Bank, who are, let's not forget, one of the top teams in the world.
It looks like Oscar Sevilla here jumping away from the field now. So Rock Racing is having a go. So Sevilla now launching his attack as well. We've seen Enrique Gutierrez go at the road, his teammate. And it looks as though one by one they're hitting out at Astana, who sooner or later are going to have to counter the move.
Well, if you just have a quick look at the way the overall classification stands in the team classification, Astana lead that competition by 1 minute and 49 seconds. Team Saxo Bank is in third place at 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So having two men in the leading group right now means that, in fact, Team Saxo Bank have moved into the lead in that competition. And that is a competition that they really do enjoy trying to win.
All these teams take pride in winning that overall classification, not just in a stage race like the Amgen Tour of California, but certainly as we get into the Grand Tours throughout the summer. Saxo Bank, and in their previous life, was known as CSC, and they were usually one of the better teams at any of the Grand Tours. Of course, Columbia High Road had the most wins of any team last year.
Just hearing time checks here, the two riders chasing about 2:27 back, and the field are almost 3 minutes now, so it's time for another move, it looks, and this is the man who's making the move, Oscar Sevilla, pushing on, and they've allowed him to go from the peloton. Somebody is coming across flow, and it could well be Bouk Mollema again of Rabobank.
Well, I think the most important thing here, Phil, is to keep a very close eye on the front end of the main field, because Team Astana will be watching these guys go away one by one and just ascertaining whether or not they are dangerous in the whole overall race of the Amgen Tour of California. They're not going to chase everything down at all. They're going to wait and see if somebody dangerous moves, and then you watch how they open up the throttle and pull them back in.
Paul, the guys have talked throughout the days here in California of Chris Horner's attentiveness out on the road. Once someone on a team shows that, do you stay somewhat the road leader throughout? Would he be making the calls again today, or who makes that decision?
Well, 9 times out of 10 with Team Astana, it's actually Johan Brunel who makes the calls on the road, because Johan is a very astute tactician. He's been in this situation so many times before, but he will converse with a guy like Chris Horner. He's probably conversing quite well with Chris Horner at the moment, because Horner is at the back of the pack here, and I'm not sure whether or not he could be going through a bad patch.
See the number 2 there. Astana still very close at the front. Oscar Sevilla continuing to work his way away from the group, just past the pink helmet there of Liz Kreutz, Lance's official photographer. So she's managed to find a good spot out on the road today. Sevilla very smooth at this moment, Paul.
Very smooth, but you see now the moves and the acceleration starting at the front. One or two of these riders wondering whether or not there's a little bit of weakness on Team Astana, so they're launching the attacks now. I just noted a Rabobank rider going clear. Serge Powell's here is in a spot of bother, because this leading group of riders, which was 6, is now shrinking down to 4 or 5.
And did you notice there, Craig, how small that peloton was? It was shrinking dramatically. I reckon 45, 50 riders left in that group now. Astana still got the head of it, but the riders are sprinting around them. This is going to be a very interesting mid-climb now. Serge Powell's unhooked at the front in the breakaway, but just holding them in his sights. Oscar Sevilla on his way up.
Well, Sevilla's seen the marking at the front end of the main field. He's not really that much of a marked man. He starts the day down in 14th place in the overall classification, but even he's looking for 3.5 minutes if he's going to rock the foundations of Levi Leipheimer's victory here in the Amgen Tour of California. A couple more riders have seen the opportunity there, just there at the front, and they're trying to come across. One of them is Frank Schleck.
Just looking back down the peloton now. There, this is Floyd Landis, by the look of it, coming across here too. He's been up here once today. Frank is the other one. Back in the bunch. They're still trying to control the big hitters, the men like Michael Rogers, who hasn't made a move yet, or Dave Zabriskie. They're still there waiting to pounce, or indeed the man the Saxo boys are softening the race up for, Jens Voigt. He's also there.
Jens Voigt starts the day only 1 minute and 10 seconds down to Levi Leipheimer on GC. We talked about yesterday's efforts and how all those teams hope to soften the legs of Astana to give a chance for their GC guys within contention, and as expected, starting to blow this up, going up Palomar.
Well, the 2 riders disappearing from this leading group of 7. Obviously, Carlos Barredo, he's completely gone, but trying to stay in contact there as Serge Powell keeps riding himself up there. That's Floyd Landis on the left-hand side there. Frank Schleck just looking over his shoulder. They've joined Oscar Sevilla. I think Frank Schleck is just going to sit there as a policeman to try and protect the position of his brother in the leading group.
Well, Floyd Landis is trying to test himself today. This is the 2nd time he's gone forward from the break on the hills. Sevilla just seems to be tapping out the message here, and they come up to him and they drop away from him, but he's not increasing, he's not decreasing his page at the moment. And they're all back around him here now, so this is looking pretty interesting as the group now tries to re-establish. Astana, it's almost like they bought the cheap tickets today. They're sitting there in the stalls watching everybody move around them, but no reason to be panicking yet.
Well, except that Jens Voigt has moved up to the tail of Floyd Landis.
That's
there.
a reason
Also,
to start panicking.
Robert Hessink has moved up as well into 3rd place. He's the leader of the Best Young Rider competition, but you won't see just yet, I don't think, Team Astana panicking. They're pretty much in control, and as Levi Leipheimer said to us the other day, it really is amazing to have a team like this who can accelerate and back off at any time that they want to.
Well, there's Floyd Landis now as they grind their way up Palomar Mountain.
The picture's breaking up just a little bit as they head high up into Palomar Mountain. Floyd Landis getting a little help right there. Jens Voigt says to him, enjoy that one. It might not happen again. These are your leaders. 6 out in front. It started with a large group early on today and has whittled its way down. A long way to come in Palomar, and there it is from our helicopter. 21 turns and 5,000 feet of climbing. There's a reason they call it the Alpe d'Huez of Southern California, and at the moment, these riders are pushing the pace as only pros can. This is used on a lot of weekends, believe it or not, as a motorbike area. Guys take their motorcycles up there and race as fast as they can, and They might be matching some speeds, these cyclists today, that the motorbikes can do on any given day, certainly on the descents. Andy Schleck, he has been one of the men out in front who has been an instigator, as has Jason McCartney. Jason McCartney right behind him wearing the California Travel and Tourism King of the Mountain jersey. We mentioned earlier how Francisco Mancebo went down in a descent yesterday from Mill Creek Summit, broke his hand, his left hand in a couple places, so he will be out for a while. He loses that King of the Mountain jersey. It goes to the shoulders of Jason McCartney. So McCartney trying to do that jersey proud. He's already won the 2 lower ranked climbs today, Highland Valley Road and Lake Wolford Road. Astana now, that's Jaroslav Popovic in the front. Chechu right behind him, Jose Rubiera, and then Lance Armstrong. You can tell by the yellow helmet and the Astana kit. Lance Armstrong sitting in 3rd position very comfortably, although at the moment it might not feel too comfortable for him. They are shepherding Levi Leipheimer through these hills. Leipheimer hunched over in the yellow jersey.
Okay.
That is the main field. The peloton, however, has lost a number of riders because of the pace put on by these men out in front. Rabobank rider Steph Clement, 9th at the Olympic Games in the time trial back in Beijing in August of last year. But the time trial specialist showing he knows a thing or two about climbing through these hills. Interesting to note the cadence, how they switch off from being in their seat to work some different leg muscles every once in a while. If you could have your power tap going, they'd be upwards of 400 watts constantly throughout today's stage. And they put in the big gears, of course, that could shoot much higher. A lot of these guys use the power tap and use the power meters throughout these stages to gauge just how much effort they're putting into a day. It's all analyzed at the end of the day by their team, how they can better work on streamlining as well as applying the power to the pedals. They are now down to 5. Sevilla, it looks as though, has dropped back, although trying to get away again. Astana has done such a great job of marking all these moves, but every time it seems like they tighten the elastic up, someone goes off the front again. All these teams, 16 of these 17 teams, seem to be going against Astana, but that is what you would expect at this point. Levi Leipheimer and his other team members, they have their work cut out for them. They've been the strongest on the road, though, all week long.
Looking down from the helicopter, we're seeing these 5 riders out in front. The gap is coming down, Craig, because there is a strong reaction from the field now. I think it's every man for himself back there today.
It's not necessarily, Paul, that they're coming down because I think they're chasing. It's just the war of attrition really has begun, hasn't it? They have to put as maximum effort in on this climb because it's the only way to survive it.
Well, everybody has to do the same. It's really a question of survival. You've got to put in a serious amount of effort just to get up this climb of around about 1,500 meters of climbing.
Well, this is dancing on the pedals here. Andy Schleck at the moment. He's been very aggressive all day. He's helped Jason McCartney, the rider in the California Tourism Leader King of the Mountains jersey, on his left, or our left rather. That's his teammate for Saxo Bank. They had a plan, there's no doubt. They've given a hard final weekend to Levi Leipheimer. Jens Voigt has tried to get in the moves. He is 4th overall in this race, and there he is, tagged onto the back of this chase group. And this is Andy's brother, Frank, who's now leading the charge. The peloton will not want to let this one go, because right on the tail of it is 4th placed overall Jens Voigt.
Well, this is, I think, the move that these guys were trying to set up a little bit earlier on today, because they know just how vicious and how great the form is in the early part of the season of a man like Jens Voigt. And that's why you can see now Frank Schleck looking over his shoulder. He wants to make sure that his teammate Jens Voigt is there, and to see whether or not they can put some pressure now onto the shoulders of Levi Leipheimer. But the Garmin slipstream rider getting into that group as well is Tommy Danielson, who I think now is finding the form that had him as one of the great hopefuls of American cycling a couple of seasons ago. go.
The way Saxo Bank is racing today, or even the past 2 days, Phil, is reminiscent of last July. The way they absolutely controlled the peloton, of course, on that fateful day up Alpe d'Huez, releasing Carlos Sastre to what eventually would be the winning move for last year's Tour de France.
It is the brothers Schleck that are demon pairing, I must say. Never before we had brothers come out of the little Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, providing two riders from the same family at this level of the sport ever in that country's history. It looks as though it's not all good news for Saxo Bank, because that Stuart O'Grady slipping off the back there as they continue. This hill is unforgiving all the way to the top. We will see the snow when we get up to the top as well. But these are the final plans of the teams now. No more cards to play after this. Tommy D at the back here. Tom Danielson has got into that move as well. This is the front group who are setting the tempo. The others are trying to follow. There's a spread of about 1.5 minutes. We're not absolutely sure at the moment.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a little bit of acceleration coming there as we're looking over our shoulders. Everyone wants to see how is the reaction going to come from Team Astana. But as I've said so many times over this last weekend, Team Astana is not the team to panic at all. Although you can see Levi Leipheimer slightly isolated here for the first time in this year's Tour. That looks like one of the big men from Colombia on the front, trying to keep the tempo nice and hard.
Got to. This is Dave Zabriskie sitting on the wheel of the slightly built Levi Leipheimer. Zabriskie is lying second in this race. The Liquigas rider behind is Vincenzo Nibali. Only 3 riders left on that team now. They've been falling like flies today as we get towards the top of this steep climb. Good tempo riding, but this is interesting, Paul. Leipheimer's being left to do it all by himself now for the first time. He's got no mate, and there's Ben-Jacques Main coming from the front and dropping down.
Well, Phil, this is why over the last 2 days there's been all of the big attacks coming from Team Saxo Bank. It's to try and put pressure onto Team Astana to try and isolate Levi Leipheimer, because they reckon that is the best way to do it, to get him on his own, because when he doesn't have his team at all, then he has to take full responsibility of the chase. The rider just in front of him there is Michael Rogers. Michael Rogers himself up in 3rd place in the overall standings. A little bit further back there, Dave Zabriskie just waiting to see if there's any weakness in the pedaling action of Levi Leipheimer. And for the first time, Phil, I have to say, in this Amgen Tour, Levi Leipheimer is under pressure.
He's under pressure and he's isolated. Kevin Seeldreyer, second best young rider, comes onto the back here. But Leipheimer in the middle, surrounded by his 2 most dangerous riders. 3rd overall is setting the pace, Michael Rogers, the Australian, and behind him is 2nd place Dave Zabriskie. They have got their man between them, but can they do anything about it? They're moving forward. Now, these guys have got teammates ahead, and I don't think there are any Astana riders in front of Levi Leipheimer.
No, there aren't, but in fact, you can see that Michael Rogers is assisting Levi Leipheimer a fraction here, because he can actually see his position in the overall standings moving away from him, because up the road is the 4th place rider Jens Voigt and also the 7th place rider Robert Hessing. So everybody under a bit of pressure on the final day, thinking about the possibility that they may well lose their places in the overall standings.
Well, this is what we expected, Craig, and hoped for, and it is showdown on Palomar.
Well, they've just done the job there. Mickey Rogers has done the job. As you can just notice, he's just pulled himself back to the wheel of Jens Voigt and the rest of that breakaway group.
Good pacemaking by Michael Rogers, and good season lies ahead of him. The man that's been dogged by injury and sickness for a couple of years. They've got this group out being a very select group now. The Amgen Tour of California spread over the mountainside. The yellow jersey, the slightly built Levi Leipheimer. He's looking quite relaxed. He dances on those pedals. That's Zabriskie. There he is, 2nd overall, 36 seconds he would like. Right now, he's about 0.2 seconds behind him.
Well, he's in an ideal situation here, because they've done what they've wanted to do over this last weekend of racing. They've finally isolated Levi Leipheimer from his teammates. His teammates have done so much work over the last 3 or 4 days. This climb is proving just a little bit too difficult for them. What the teammates have got to do now is not panic and try and ride themselves over the top of this climb without losing too much time, and then possibly try and catch up on the descent, because they don't want to leave Levi on his own. First of all, because he will get attacked, and secondly,
there's a man here trying to give his baby away.
Well, I noticed that, Bill.
My, oh my, Saxo Bank. That was a way to segue the conversation, Phil, that's for sure. Saxo Bank at the moment. Andy Schleck in front. Absolutely smooth with those pedal strokes. Jens Voigt right behind him. Saxo with the numbers at the moment, as do Garmin Slipstream.
The other problem is for Levi Leipheimer, just to finish off my thought before we were interrupted by the young man with the baby, is that if Levi Leipheimer has a mechanical incident now, that really puts him into difficulty.
There will be no one there from Astana, at least for a while, to help him out. This top of this climb comes at about 44 miles into the day's 97-mile stage, so plenty of real estate still to cover after they crest this hill. But the difficulty comes, as Paul just mentioned, if you're singled out, you don't have anyone to help you with equipment, but you also then will be subject to those attacks even more so once they realize everyone in front of him that he's isolated. That's Tom Danielson from Garmin Slipstream at the moment, number 33, only 2.5 minutes back from Levi Leipheimer. This is all the contenders coming into today.
But what I think more interesting is there are teams here who have multiple riders who are a threat to Levi Leipheimer. Garmin Slipstream have got 2 riders in this group. You've got Saxo Bank with 3 guys in this group, and Levi Leipheimer for the moment is completely and utterly on his own. And I was a bit surprised earlier on when I did see Chris Horner, who's been a stalwart throughout this bike race, sitting at the back end of the group.
May have been something with the 2 boxes of donuts he brought into the hotel for breakfast this morning. It may have cost him his place today. But anyway, this is Andy Schleck grinding on at the front, trying to set something up for Jens Voigt. I noticed that his brother Frank has dropped back a little alarmingly quickly just now in his Champion of Luxembourg's jersey. But still plenty of tempo. Voigt in 2nd place here now, trying to improve on his 4th place overall, but he'll have to go because the boys who are closest to him have tagged on behind him now, including Leipheimer, who even without his team, and this is when a team leader has to prove he is the best on the squad, because now he's left alone to do it all for himself, and he doesn't look like a man in trouble to me.
Well, these guys look as if they're dishing out a whole lot of pain as well. This is the face of Andy Schleck on the front end of the main field. Don't forget this man's pedigree. He was the best young rider in the Tour de France last year at his first attempt, and he's a member of the winning team of the Tour de France last year, not only in the individual but also in the team as well. They are a strong squad, and the reason they're so good is because they will fight. Frank Schleck just tagging on at the back of the group there.
At the front is Andy Schleck, followed by Jens Voigt. Tucked in is the yellow jersey of Leipheimer. Then it is Robert Gessing, the best young rider in this race. And at he's such a young age, he's destined for a really good future. He loves the climbs. He's long, tall and gangly. And this is now a very select group as they set the pace up the Palomar mountain. And right at the back now is Jason McCartney, the leader in the King of the Mountains competition. Christian van der Velde has made it as well. He'd be pleased with that. But right down the mountain now, the whole of the Tour of California has been spread eagle. We're getting to the snow line.
Phil, you did a great job of pointing out just the difference facially of these riders. Schleck, you can see cracking a bit. Jens Voigt always has that look on his face, but Levi, uncharacteristically, or I should say, very much like Lance Armstrong used to do, showing no emotion at all, looking very comfortable at the moment. So, Paul, at this point, the guys that have put in all this hard work from Saxo Bank as well as Garmin Slipstream, mentally, does this start to crack them when they look around and see Levi looking as comfortable as he is?
Well, you actually have a closer look at Levi Leipheimer there. He's puffing and blowing a fraction because he's under pressure from these guys, but they will feel extremely confident having 3 men in this leading group because they know that they can start to launch the attacks onto him a little bit further on because of the fact that he has become isolated. So they currently have got the psychological advantage, but they haven't done the job that they wanted to do, and that's get rid of Leipheimer.
This is the biggest climb of the 2009 Amgen Tour of California. Palomar Mountain will be cresting 5,000 feet of elevation, but we will have another climb after this with only about 15 miles to go. It's a 2-mile climb up Pole Grade Road, Paul, and we can't emphasize enough that after all this softening, that's where you could see the numbers really of Saxo Bank pay off with that final spurt.
There's an awful long way to go to the summit of this climb, so it really depends on how the condition is of a number of riders in this group. Are they able to sustain this effort? Because we're actually in the early part of the season. We're only the month of February, and a lot of these guys are looking to sustain an effort at this level for around about 30 minutes, and that's a hard thing to do. You may well have done a little bit in training, but to support this kind of effort, you really have to be on form very early in the season.
Well, Schleck is tapping out the rhythm here, that is for sure. Yesterday, the man who was in the lead in the King of the Mountains, Francisco Mancebo, crashed. We believe he was trying to help a teammate put his chain back on. He crashed, and he, in fact, was unconscious momentarily, and he did break his thumb, and he did damage the back of his hand as well. But one thing the riders are saying here, and that is that the medical team on the Tour of California has had some very nasty injuries over the week to deal with them. And under the guidance of the race doctor here, Rami Madaba, who is actually a very top surgeon as well, it is turning out that they are saying that this is the best medical team they've ever experienced on any stage race. That's a terrific feather in the cap of Dr. Madaba and his team.
Well, I think they've done a great job keeping you on the road as well for the last couple of days. Well, I have to admit, I sent him a text and he did send me some antibiotics, yes. And now it's Paul Sherwen's turn to take the antibiotics. We've all got through thanks to Rami Madaba, the doctor on the medical team here. But right now, the tempo being dished out. And as we look at the pictures again, it is still Jens Voigt stamping on those pedals on the front. But just to remind who's the boss, Leipheimer's up into second place.
Andy Schleck did his work at the front end. He is now pulled back all the way to that back group. Dave Zabriskie still in there, as is Tom Danielson, the orange and blue of Garmin Slipstream. Steph Clement from Rabobank. Jens Voigt off in front, setting the pace at the moment. The man right behind him is the man they're trying to soften up, Levi Leipheimer of Astana. There are some of his teammates, Lance Armstrong in the yellow to the right of your screen. They're going to try to stay as close as possible to regroup with Levi as soon as they can.
Well, there's our elk again, and boy, this guy concentrates when he runs, doesn't he?
They really need to concentrate behind, I think, the teammates of Levi Leipheimer to make sure they don't lose too much time over the summit of this mountain, because they now know that in the leading group, it's 2 Garmin riders and 3 Saxo riders against a single man, Levi Leipheimer.
Sat at the back of this group here is Vincenzo Nibali. Remember him on the first road race stage when they got onto the circuit in Santa Rosa. We thought he might have picked up the win, but he didn't quite make it over the line in first place. But now it is the hard riding by Jens Voigt, who got himself into 4th overall in this race because of his great time-trialing ability in Solvang. He now sits 1 minute 10 seconds off Leipheimer's yellow jersey. But as they come to the summit, it is going to be Voigt who goes over the top in first place, the high spot of the Amgen Tour of California. And that is absolutely fitting for the man who is always one of the race's most aggressive riders.
Well, Jens Voigt is an incredible character, and I think that's the amazing thing about him, Phil. He will battle from February right the way through until October. But in the Tour de France last year, he did not battle at all. This is the group. There's Lance Armstrong in this group with Carlos Boredo. There's another rider in there from Team Astana as well. So I'd have to say that they actually haven't lost very much time at all. They're probably inside of 30 seconds. Jaroslav Popovic is the other rider. So he's got 2 strong men who I reckon once they start the descent have got a very good chance of catching back up to assist him.
Paul, as we just saw, Levi Leipheimer absolutely passing this test on Palomar. Would you say Astana has done the same, or by virtue of them dropping off, you won't give them the passing grade?
Well, they were put under serious pressure, and I think it's all because of how difficult this climb has been. Let's not forget Astana, one of the top teams in the world, up against Saxo Bank, the other top team in the world, who for the last 3 or 4 days have actually been sitting back and waiting for this moment.
Speaking of waiting for this moment, the fans on the top of Palomar have been waiting 24 hours to witness what they just saw, which is Saxo Bank putting the hammer down. Andy Schleck and Jens Voigt now off the front yet again. They have all isolated Levi Leipheimer of Astana. It's up to the team now to come back and help out the yellow jersey wearer.
Everyone thinks Californians are so laid back.
But we're actually pretty ambitious.
We reach for the sky! We put our best foot forward!
We're persistent.
Really persistent!
We give it our best shot!
So, if you have a dream of reaching the summit,
chase it down in California! But don't worry!
There'll always be room at the top.
California. Find yourself here.
Batter's up, and so is Jones, checking the sign to the men's room.
Oh, not the first time. He's going over and over.
Now Johnson's rounding the corner, heading for the men's room.
Going urgently.
You bet. Carter steps out. He was in there a long time.
Stopping and starting. These guys should see their doctor.
Good point. Could be male urinary symptoms due to BPH and enlarged prostate.
For many guys, prescription Flomax reduces their urinary symptoms due to BPH in 1 week.
1 week?
Only your doctor can tell if you have BPH, not a more serious condition like prostate cancer.
Avoid driving or hazardous tasks for 12 hours after your first dose or increase in dose, as a sudden drop in blood pressure may occur, rarely resulting in fainting. If considering cataract surgery, tell your eye surgeon you've taken Flomax.
Common side effects are runny nose, dizziness, and decrease in semen.
Ask your doctor if Flomax is right for you.
Call 877-4FLOMAX to see if you qualify for up to $40 off Flomax prescription.
For many men, Flomax can make a difference in 1 week.
Sugar-free Tic Tac Gel, the perfect balance of taste and freshness.
The penny, seemingly small, but now witness the new power of the penny. Penny Pizza. Call or come in for Pizza Hut's Penny Pizza Deal. Get a medium one topping for just a penny when you order any large pizza at menu price. The Penny Pizza Deal by Pizza Hut. Now you're eating.
Soviet ships have violated the territorial water.
Just a matter of time, I suppose.
Someone's picking off costumed heroes.
Why is that?
Watchmen are over. Someone wants us out of the way. What do you suggest we do about it? Retribution.
Watchmen. Rated R. In theaters on IMAX March 6th.
The push to the NHL playoffs is on Versus. There's always one game that tells a team if they're fast enough, tough enough, and hungry enough to hang with the best. This is that game. Flyers, Red Wings, March 17th, right here on Versus. Well, while we were away, it was the descent off Mount Palomar, and the selection has definitely happened here in stage number 8. Frank Schleck, Vincenzo Nibali, Bauk Malema, and Glenn Chadwick of Rock Racing are the 4 off the front end of that group that went over the top together. Of course, that pace coming up Palomar absolutely shattered the peloton. Now it is an elite group of chasers, including the yellow jersey group that includes Levi Leipheimer, Lance Armstrong, Yaroslav Popovic, Tom Danielson from Garmin Slipstream, as well as David Zabrisky's in there, Michael Rogers from Columbia High Road. I just mentioned Glenn Chadwick from Rock Racing. They have done a great job so far this year in terms of how they have raced on the road. It's a new attitude, and here's Michael Ball.
We're about business now. We don't need to be over the top. We're here to race and compete. Right now, it's about teamwork. It's about partnerships. It's not about being arrogant. It's about coming together and doing things in a solidified way. Whether that be winning a stage, holding a jersey, winning the whole thing. We're having a team that represents who we are. It's a different time now for all of us.
The way Michael Ball makes his team is just, you know, he thinks outside the box, and it's been a great adventure. I think I speak for the whole team that everybody is really enjoying racing their bikes on this team.
These very, very talented men deserve that opportunity again, and that should inspire others to give others opportunity as well. I think it is an honorable thing to give other people an opportunity and a second chance.
I owe Michael Ball a lot of credit for the opportunity he's given me and the opportunity he's given this team. There's been a lot of support out there. You know, I hear my name yelled on the side of the road a lot, and that's, to be honest, that's been really nice. I just want to help the team be successful, help the team win races. As long as we're winning races and really keeping the boss happy, then I'm happy.
Yeah, I would love to do the big grand tours, but it's important for us to push the brand and push our message and make sure that people are inspired with what we do.
Race finishes on Sunday. We'd love to have a guy on the podium in general classification. That's the goal.
This tour has been so much fun. Sunday is going to just be an explosion. I can't wait. Oh, man. Wow. It's going to be fun.
Great solidarity within Rock Racing, and it all starts with owner Michael Ball. As you heard, all his team members support him 100%. And at the moment, he's got a man, Glenn Chadwick, out in this break. Perhaps another chance at a stage win. They won that stage one with Francisco Mancebo coming into Santa Rosa, and Chadwick could provide the punch at the very end. He was the most aggressive rider at the Amgen Tour of California back in 2006. Back here in Escondido, it's all about the artwork, the yellow chalk on the road. Everyone has scribbled their message. We await the leaders and the eventual winner of today's stage.
Sometimes the recipe for adventure is 1 part poor judgment plus 2 parts persistence. Take Dan Heaton of Seattle. Dan is an off-road unicyclist, a sport that didn't exist till he and his buddies had the vision for it. To some, such vision might call for corrective lenses. But to us, it's the foresight of a pioneer. Introducing the pioneers of Columbia's greater outdoors.
The Duralast Proving Grounds have come to this maternity ward to test the new Duralast Gold C-Max ceramic brakes, built with a revolutionary shim technology that deadens vibration for superior ultra-quiet stopping performance. To prove this, we've enlisted the help of several very light sleepers. There you have it. New super quiet C-Max brakes from Duralast. Duralast, proven tough.
This is Bob. Seems to be a lot of rumors going around about this chubby Santa. That's because Bob made a call to Enzyte about natural male enhancement. And what did he get? Why, a sleigh full of confidence, a sack full of pride, and the one thing that every lady likes, the joy of a gift that keeps on giving.
Call or go online now to find out how to get a 30-day sample.
Enzyte, the once daily tablet for natural male enhancement.
If you've ever been curious about natural male enhancement, there's never been a better time to try a sample pack of Enzyte. Visit Enzyte.com or call toll-free for a sample pack. Call right now and you'll also get 2 free packs of Enzyte Topical Rush. With an offer this big, it's enough to throw a parade. Sample packs are in stock now and shipped to you within 48 hours. Offer only good while supplies last. Limit 1 per household. Enzyte, the once daily tablet for natural male enhancement.
One punch stunned WEC featherweight champion Uriah Faber and shocked the world.
I don't believe what I just saw.
Now, newly crowned champ Mike Brown.
It's been a long road, man.
Makes his first defense against #1 contender, Texas bad boy, Leonard Garcia.
At 145, who wants some? I want me a title shot.
The WEC on Versus. Next Sunday at 9/8 Central.
The final weeks of the season tell where you stand. And there's always that one game that's a measuring stick. It determines if you're fast enough, tough enough, hungry enough to hang with the best. Circle the date. Because this is one of those games.
Welcome back to Versus Live coverage of stage number 8, the final day of the 2009 Amgen Tour of California. These 4 have been out front for quite a while now. Frank Schleck, Vincenzo Nibali, Bauke Mollema, and Glenn Chadwick of Rock Racing has the little gap off the front end. But it's now up to these 4 to decide how much they really want to work. Astana has been doing a great job on the front of the peloton. This actually isn't even the peloton. This is an elite group of chasers. They're under a minute back. Astana, you can see Lance Armstrong stretching his back at the moment, just behind Jaroslav Popovic, Chechu Rubiera right there, and then Levi Leipheimer wearing the yellow. Floyd Landis in that group we just saw, Tom Danielson, Christian Vandevelde, Michael Rogers, huge number of GC contenders up there, Jens Voigt as well in the mix. Astana's done a great job of taking apart these attacks. 167 is Glenn Chadwick, riding that Shimano gear. After 9 days, every second counts, and equipment often makes the difference. Here's Bob Rowe with more.
One of the best kept secrets in the Pro Peloton is Pro Components, makers of handlebars, stems, seat posts, and disc wheels. At the Amgen Tour of California, you can see teams like Columbia High Road, Rabobank, Rock Racing, Team Type 1 using this equipment. And over in Europe, you have FDJ as well as Skill Shimano all using this equipment. This is the more conventional two-piece bar and stem combo, the Vibe. And this is the Sexy Stealth, one piece, all integrated carbon. And of course, it does come in the very flashy white color as well. The Pro Components have been developed in conjunction with some of the top pro riders in the Peloton. They're all made by Shimano, one of the preeminent experts in carbon fiber technology. Best of all available at your local pro bike shop.
As Bob highlighted, a number of the teams out here during the Amgen Tour of California using that gear. Garmin, of course, using felt as well as the Shimano components. A great way to stay up in that lead pack. Glenn Chadwick off the front. He's done a great job, hasn't he, guys, of not only making that group of four. Well, wait a minute. No, it looks as though we have the camera pan up, whether or not I thought he was off the front. There he is indeed. Yep, he's 18 minutes back, so the GC really isn't a factor at all, as you would imagine, Paul. But I'm going for that stage win, perhaps the second for Rock Racing.
Yes, he is the leader on the road because of the fact that the other three riders in the group with him, Frank Schleck, Vincenzo Nibali, and of course Bauke Mollema, decided that they were going to get caught, and he took the advantage of the slowing down of the other three riders with him to go out and try and lead this race alone.
Just around 24 miles still to race here. That's only 40 kilometers. And Glenn Chadwick here may have made a very, very good call. The peloton has now swelled with the adaptation of those three riders to about 34 riders in this group now. And the men they wanted are back. So this will be an interesting one now. Absolutely no reason to worry about Levi Leipheimer's team chasing. If anybody wants to win the stage today, they better start coming to the front now.
So it's quite funny, Craig, how this works. You know, it looked at one stage as if Levi Leipheimer was on the back foot. He was on the defensive. He had no teammates at all alongside him. Now he's got teammates who scuttled back into this group to support him and shoulder him over the last 24 miles of racing. And now they are actually in the tactical position of being in strength, because they don't want to win the stage. All they want to win is the overall title at the Amgen Tour of California. So they will have to see whether or not any of the other teams are now prepared to chase down Chadwick.
We've said a couple times as well, and it bears repeating, Vincenzo Nibali, who was out in that front group before, he is the closest on GC to Levi Leipheimer at 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Phil, we highlighted at the top of the show today that Astana has that house money to play with. They've got all those seconds. They've worked all week long in the bank, and now's when they're hoping to cash them in.
Yeah, and they've got Armstrong, Checha-Rubiera and Popovic. They're the guys who've come back to help him in that group now and guard him all the way to the finish. So it's a routine finish for them now, but they had to work hard for it earlier on, I must say, when we isolated Levi.
Last year, Glenn Chadwick won a couple stages of the Tour of Arkansas as well as the GC. That was his biggest group of wins all season long. This absolutely would put the Palomars on a whole different level. To win the final day at the Amgen Tour of California will be something to talk about. Rock Racing absolutely in the mix and even dictating the pace, but Levi Leipheimer comfortably in striking distance.
Yeah. May your hands always be busy. May your feet always be swift. And may you have a strong foundation when the winds of change shift. And may your heart always be joyful. And may your song always be sung. Sing it. May you stay forever young. May you stay forever young.
Every generation refreshes the world.
Cool.
We live in a mobile society. Our customers can access the internet at 3G speed almost anywhere today. But some people are still tethered to their home or office when they don't need to be. Wireless is more than just a word. It's a way of living.
Try America's most dependable 3G network with Simply Everything Plus mobile broadband. You get wireless 3G for your laptop and unlimited email, web, and talk for your phone. Cut the cord and save $599 a year.
I'm working from the road today.
Every fighter deals with fear. It starts before you even leave the locker room. In the tunnel, it gets worse. Your heart starts beating to the rhythm of the fans. It's a long walk to that cage. And once you get there, you realize you still have to face me. What do I fear? I'll let you know when I find it.
No Fear Energy.
The path of the righteous man is beset by the inequities of lesser men. Blessed is he who shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, and he will strike down upon them with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to defeat him. And you will know that man's name is Eldrick Tiger Woods.
Tiger's back. Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Golf Channel.
One man off at front. It's Rock Racing's Glenn Chadwick. He has descended off Mount Palomar, and now he's at about a 2-mile false flat before they head up Cole Grade Road. The three men who he left behind, Frank Schleck, Vincenzo Nibali, and Bauke Mollema, are doing their best to stay in contact, about 12 seconds behind. The elite group of chasers we've been talking about still right at a minute. So Levi Leipheimer well protected. Now the group says 45 seconds. Leipheimer in yellow trying to win that overall. And you know, in a stage race, very little is left to chance, and there's more often than not a formula to success. Paul Sherwen explains.
One of the most perplexing aspects to get one's head around is deciphering how victory is achieved over 9 days. Cycling often complicates things by having several contests within the race. Face it, there's a jersey awarded for everything conceivable in a stage race. Thanks to the popularity of the man from Texas who beat the world 7 times over, the yellow jersey has become synonymous with the race leader and ultimately the race winner. The man wearing yellow is the marked man. He's the rabbit from greyhound racing that everyone wants to catch. The race for yellow is a race against time, but rather than measuring time over 1 day, the clock runs for 9 days straight. There might be any number of riders who will wear yellow after the daily yardsticks are added up, but what's more important is taking the final yellow jersey home. In essence, the man who stopped the clock the fastest from start line to finish line the most consistently from Sacramento to Escondido, California, is the man who will walk away with the spoils today. Usually that man wins an individual stage or two along the way, being fastest when it counts the most. But there's no rules that say he has to win anything at all in order to achieve the ultimate goal of getting through 750 miles faster than anybody else. In the end, although cycling can seem more ponderous than quantum physics at times, it boils down to the simple fact of who can cover the distance in the least amount of time. The efforts of his teammates go to achieving that goal, even at their own peril, making cycling one of the greatest team sports ever conceived.
The king of consistency in California has unquestionably been Levi Leipheimer of Astana so far. He's 36 seconds ahead of David Zabriskie, 45 seconds ahead of Michael Rogers from Columbia High Road. Jens Voigt, we saw in the attacks earlier today trying to close that gap, but he was eventually brought back, and Thomas Lokvist rounds out your top 5. Leipheimer has worked all week long, as has his Astana team. Lance Armstrong in the yellow helmet off the front at the moment. Jaroslav Popovic right there as well. Levi tucked into 4th position behind Chechu Rubiera. A lot of big names in that group, including Christian Vandevelde, Tom Danielson, Michael Rogers, Floyd Landis. So Astana more than happy at the moment to keep that gap right around 45 seconds. This is Glenn Chadwick hoping to survive, and a little bit from now he's going to make a big left-hand turn and he'll stare at Cole Grade Road, a 2-mile mountain that could launch him to victory.
When the road ahead is full of twists and turns and you can't see what's around the corner, it helps to have someone to safely guide the way. Rabobank is your safe and sound banking leader. Well capitalized and conservative, Rabobank can help you navigate the challenges on the road ahead. As part of one of the safest banks in the world, we'll keep your money safe, secure, and growing. Ride safe, bank safe with Rabobank NA, official bank of the Amgen Tour of California.
How much sugar is in these energy drinks? Let's find out. While waiting, you should know 5-Hour Energy contains 0 sugar and only 4 calories. Its blend of B vitamins and amino acids can help you feel awake, alert, and productive for hours without the crash or jitters. The answer is 12. Over 12 teaspoons of sugar and 200 calories in these energy drinks. 0 sugar and 4 calories in 5-Hour Energy. There's a reason people choose 5-Hour Energy 2.5 million times a week. 5-Hour Energy. Hours of energy now, no crash later.
Would you like to put a stop to your partner's snoring so you could go to sleep and stay asleep every night? Introducing Pure Sleep, the stop snoring solution. Common snoring is caused when the airway is constricted, causing the soft palate to vibrate. Pure Sleep is a patented self-molded mouthpiece cleared by the FDA, which holds the jaw slightly forward, opening the airway so that the snoring stops. Look at the difference in these before and after images.
That is just the astounding thing. I have not snored. And so this thing works. It's easy to use, easy to mold, works like a charm.
I'm sleeping through the night and so is he, and we're waking up with more energy and not waking up in the middle of the night to say shh.
If it doesn't work, we'll refund the purchase price, refund the original shipping charge, and even pay to ship it back. Try Pure Sleep risk-free.
Visit us at puresleep.com.
The leaders all together as they come up the final categorized climb of the Amgen Tour of California. All forward. This is where we figured 1 or 2 men would launch an attack. And as if on cue, Vincenzo Nibali out of the seat trying to do some damage to the other 3. That's Frank Schleck right behind him doing his best to stay in contact. Bauk Malema from Rabobank there. And of course, Glenn Chadwick. Those 4. But this is a steep categorized climb. It's only category 4. But it could be much higher, either 3 or 2, especially coming this late in the race. Look at that elevation. Meanwhile, the elite group of chasers led by Lance Armstrong, they are on the climb now as well. We go back to now, this is real time. They're just over a minute, but Astana has done a great job, especially Armstrong and Popovich, and keeping that gap right at 1 minute so that Levi Leipheimer's overall is not jeopardized. Frank Schleck now and Vincenzo Nibali are clear as we see the fans just surrounding them. A great example again of how steep this incline is with these fans so close cheering him on, able to stay right in contact with these 2 riders. So Chadwick has dropped back. Malema has dropped back. This is exactly what we would expect. There's a huge amount of elevation gain in just the 2-mile climb going into this. Afterwards, they'll have about 15 miles of undulation, a chance for them to stay clear. Now it's Frank Schleck with a chance to go clear of Vincenzo Nibali. Keep in mind that Nibali is only 2 minutes and 21 seconds down on Levi Leipheimer, but he's only 1 minute and 11 seconds down on Jens Voigt, Frank Schleck's teammate. And again, it's Astana. Jens Voigt off to the left-hand side in the white and black jersey of Saxo Bank. He would have to wonder, okay, how much work is Frank Schleck going to do to help Vincenzo Nibali down the road? But the fireworks have definitely happened here. Colgrade Road was what we expected, Paul. This was the final climb of the Amgen Tour of California. It's only been Schleck and Nibali who have been able to withstand it the best.
Well, I have to say it's more than I expected. I know a lot of the local cyclists around here had told me that it was a beast of a climb, but normally when you look at a race handbook and it says 4th category, you don't expect it to be quite as difficult as this. I have to say that Frank Schleck has got incredible form here in the early part of the season, while Chadwick is about to get picked up by the front end of the main field, which is pretty much controlled there by Team Astana. But I have to say that Frank Schleck is really playing with the field here, and I think actually he deserves the stage victory if they can stay in front.
We talk about the severity of this climb, Phil, and just as Schleck and Nibali went out of frame before we switched to the peloton, I saw a sign pointing downwards, and it said a 9% downgrade for the next 2 miles.
You see, people often ask, how do they categorize hills? And the answer is they make it up. There's no real formula. It's where it's placed on the course, it's how steep it, how long. But at the end of the day, it's the race director who decides. And I think that should have been at least a 3rd category. It was a very hard climb.
Yeah, but you're not the race director.
No, well, I used to be, though, one day.
I will say, though, speaking of race directors, Jim Burrell, the Amgen Tour of California race director, has just told me that this is the largest crowd ever to watch a stage race in the U.S. Yeah. We've talked about these crowds throughout the week, how they have braved the weather, but hats off to Jim Burrell, his staff, and, of course, Amgen, because this has been quite a show.
It certainly has, and despite all the weather, I mean, the crowds were huge in the atrociously cold, wet, windy conditions we had in the opening couple of days of the racing. Now it's spring-like weather here in Southern California, and the Barley is enjoying it. No arm warmers, no leg warmers, nice little track mitts on, and the grimace there of Nibali and the rather sly smile of Frank Schleck. They're pushing on here. They're over the top of the climb. The last mountain is behind them. We're heading down to the flats into Escondido, and I'm still not convinced these boys will stay to the finish.
Well, Frank Schleck is hoping that they will, because he would like to top and tail the Amgen Tour of California for his team, Team Amgen, Team Saxo Bank, because obviously they won the first stage with their man Fabian Cancellara, who took the first overall lead and then sadly got sick overnight and had to abandon the race. Still a flurry of activity at the front end of the main field, but I think this is a little bit swatting flies for Team Astana.
Well, Andy Schleck is now guarding the attack here by, I think it's Peter Weening who's having a go, and marshalling them back into the bunch simply because he doesn't want anybody to chase down Brother Frank now, who is up the road. The capture of Glenn Chadwick, the lone man out there, and so he's back in the fold. I presume Volk Palomar is still just in front, but I'm not sure where he's gone right now. Here comes the Astana charge as they put somebody else, Chadwick on this occasion, back into the pack.
You see, Astana dictated the pace there, and they knew the thing that they wanted to do was to get over the summit here of Colgrade with all of the riders in the group of Team Astana still there. And now they're sending Chechu Rubiera to the front to set the tempo. He's a man who guarded Lance Armstrong many times in the Alps and the Pyrenees of the Tour de France, and now he's looking after the interests of Levi Leipheimer, who's currently sitting in 5th position there in the yellow jersey. He will now start to feel that little bit more confident. He'll know that all he's got to do is count away the kilometers over the next few the next 25 minutes of racing, because the closer he gets to the finish, the least possibility there is of somebody launching a last-minute attack.
I'm just thinking there, Paul, Astana have all 8 riders on their team coming home, the only squad that is totally complete. But here's Lance Armstrong at 37 in his comeback year. And on a team like Astana, the best riders in the world, and Lance is one of the 3 men still left at the front to do the work for Levi Leipheimer. Those boys he's left behind on his own team must be thinking, this man is unbelievable.
Absolutely. I mean, he really has ridden superbly. We saw him ride in the Tour Down Under, and he was almost immediately slipping into the same level of competition that he did before. He needs the competition, though, I have to say, over the next couple of months if he's going to be very competitive in the Giro d'Italia. But that's, I think, the important thing that he's done here. He's shown that he can race, and a race at a top level.
The drafting right now is a great illustration, sitting behind each other in that single line, saving up to 30% energy when you're back in that draft. We take a look at a graphic that shows it. The man in front breaks the wind for those behind, and depending on the wind direction depends on which angle you sit behind the lead rider. If it's a straight head-on wind, you come right behind, but as we're showing you with this angled wind, you veer off, in this case, to the right-hand side, because the wind is coming from the left shoulder to the right-hand side of the road. Perfect example here of when there's the headwind or no wind, that straight line is the best way to conserve as much energy as possible. Astana has been on the front almost all day. It's now Lance Armstrong in that yellow helmet sitting right behind Jaroslav Popovic. They know they are a few miles away from celebrating an overall win. And speaking of celebration, have to send a hello and a shout out to our executive producer's father, Joe Carter. He turns 80 tomorrow in Boonesville, Mississippi.
Everyone thinks Californians are so laid back. But we're actually pretty ambitious.
We reach for the sky! We put our best foot forward!
We're persistent.
Really persistent!
We give it our best shot.
So if you have a dream of reaching the summit,
chase it down in California! But don't worry!
There'll always be room at the top.
California. Find yourself here.
If you've been putting off getting new carpet for your home, now's the time to put it back on.
because the Home Depot has a new lower price for carpet installation. Only $139 for your whole house, no matter how many rooms. We've lowered the price on over 1,000 items throughout the store, including carpet. So you'll pay the lowest total price for your carpet project, guaranteed. New carpet has never been more affordable, with basic installation for just $139, no matter how many rooms. Only at the Home Depot. You can do it. We can help.
Hey, it's our friend Bob. Looks like Bob continues to enjoy the big lift he gets from Enzyte and natural male enhancement. With over 10 million packs sold, Enzyte is firmly the #1 selling brand, bringing true natural male enhancement to men all over the world. Now you can join Bob and the millions of men who fully enjoy the benefits of Enzyte. Just call or visit Enzyte.com for a sample pack of the strongest, most powerful Enzyte formula yet. Enjoy the full, robust confidence that only Enzyte can provide. If you've ever been curious about natural male enhancement, there's never been a better time to try a sample pack of Enzyte. Visit Enzyte.com or call toll-free for a sample pack. Call right now and you'll also get 2 free packs of Enzyte Topical Rush. With an offer this big, it's enough to throw a parade. Sample packs are in stock now and shipped to you within 48 hours. Offer only good while supplies last. Limit 1 per household. Enzyte, the once daily tablet for natural male enhancement.
The penny, seemingly small, but now witness the new power of the penny. Penny Pizza. Call or come in for Pizza Hut's Penny Pizza deal. Get a medium 1 topping for just a penny when you order any large pizza at menu price. The Penny Pizza deal by Pizza Hut. Now you're eating.
Those who seek to find her uncover the true face of fear. Rated M for mature.
Glad you could join us live here on Versus for the final stage of the 2009 Amgen Tour of California. 100 miles in length. Astana has controlled the peloton well. Levi Leipheimer's lead is still comfortable.
Well, just look at Leipheimer there. He's just riding along, enjoying life. He knows he's won this race now, and after the hard battle of the mountain, it's a freewheel home.
This was the day, though, we all expected, Paul, wasn't it, with these 4 categorized climbs, including that last one on cold grade. So I'm going to ask you, what are you most surprised with? Levi getting isolated on Palomar, Astana's lack of, shall we say, nervousness because they stayed that steady pace coming back, or the grade of cold grade at the end?
No, I'm a little bit surprised that Levi Leipheimer was isolated there, because his team have looked so solid over the last few days that really I wouldn't have thought that they would have completely and utterly disappeared. But what I'm impressed is that they didn't panic at all. They kept themselves as a solid block. They dragged themselves back into the race. They regrouped, and now they're forming themselves at the front like a very serious organized body.
In years past, we've always seen this terrain work for Lance Armstrong. Today, it is Lance Armstrong working for Levi, as he has done all week long, except, of course, during the Solvang time trial. Meanwhile, the 2 off the front, Phil, Vincenzo Nibali and Frank Schleck, they made their move on that steep incline up Cold Grade Road, and so far, they're making it stick.
No, they seem to be working together now. The gap is being held at a minute, so at the moment there's no danger to Jan Voigt's 4th place overall in favor of Nibali. Frank Schleck looks as though he's been given the orders now to ride. 80.7 miles is where the leaders are at the moment. 78.4 miles is where the chase is. So they're prizing open this gap, and I'm just not too sure now what's going on now. Here's Frank Schleck saying, what's going on? Why don't you come and give me a hand? And it looks as though Nibali isn't too willing to help out anymore.
Or he's starting to feel just a little bit fatigued on this long breakaway. They're still locked in at 1 minute and 10 seconds. There you can see the help is coming from Team Quick-Step now. I wonder if they're thinking about the possibility of a victory at the end of the day for Carlos Barredo. I'd noticed that George Hincapie's in this move. Now, if they pull it all back together at the end, Hincapie could be the replacement sprinter for Team Colombia. Now, if you remember, the winner of the last stage of the Amgen Tour of California, the winner of the last stage of the Amgen Tour of California last year just happened to be George Hincapie.
And I think he's smarting a little bit, Phil, isn't he, from yesterday? He felt that he was the marked man in the group, and of course, when you're successful as a guy like Big George, you're always going to be marked to somewhat, but he really felt everyone cued off of him. Not only that, but expected him to do the work to bring those breaks when they happened in the breakaway.
Yes, and I think the ride yesterday in Pasadena, it was in dry conditions, and George did give it his best shot. Beaten at the end, finished only 7th. There might be time to move up today, but they've got to do some chasing now, because it looks to me as though Frank Schleck has enjoyed this week here, and he's now found his legs to take back home to Luxembourg. And we might read a lot about him in the next couple of weeks, because he is looking very, very sharp today and extremely strong. He's almost toying with Nibali, I think. He seems to want him along for the ride, then he doesn't, then he does. And I think Nibali is just about on the limit of his ability today.
Well, I think he's also trying to probably control the gap and keep the gap at the 1 minute or so mark. He wants to survive off the front end of the main field, but he doesn't want to steal the 4th place of his teammate Jens Voigt. So he's in a very complicated position in the race here this afternoon. But I think, Phil, we've just seen a slight change now, because all of a sudden there's a lot of teams moving up to the front end of the main field, and maybe they're now starting to think about taking over the pacemaking themselves.
Well, it has to be now or never, because we're running into the last 30 kilometers of the day. And if they don't wrap it up now, it's a very fast finish from now on into Escondido. There's no more climb, mostly level or downhill. So Leipheimer is very, very happy with the situation just now, as he sits there very content.
As you mentioned, Phil, over the next 15 kilometers or so, it is extremely fast. It's undulating road around the outskirts of Escondido, and then the last 10 kilometers we plunge down into the city here, and that's where it's going to be extremely fast.
What they're actually going to do, guys, is they're going to backtrack on roads that they went towards Mount Palomar on. They'll go back towards Lake Wolford, and that big climb, that second categorized climb as the day, is going to be that fast descent that you mentioned.
60 seconds, that's all it is. You can see the peloton, the whole of the Amgen Tour of California coming down here. These boys have been working the heart out, but frankly, they haven't gone anywhere.
No, they've been locked in. I think it's completely controlled by Team Astana at the front end of the peloton. They want to hold it at that 1 minute mark up until the moment when the other guys in this race decide that they want to have a little bit of glory. I've noticed there's 3 riders in there from Garmin Slipstream. They will be thinking about the possibility of a stage victory down towards the end. But it seems to me as if, in fact, one of the teams very concerned about the possibility of victory is Team Quick-Step. Let's not forget their big man Tom Boonen abandoned this morning, and they haven't had a stage victory so far.
You said that Bonin's looking later on in the year for his big wins. That's the case, but we've already highlighted that no team wants to leave a stage race, Phil, without anything in their back pocket.
And they've got 3 or 4 riders here of their surviving 7 riders in this bunch, which is interesting. I've been trying to nail down who they are. We know Carlos Barredo is here because he made the move on the mountain anyway, so he's in the group. And we've got a bunch of around about a total of 40. The best young rider, Kevin Sales, rides here, and he is a bit of a good finisher in this sort of company. But I think, you know, if he gets down to the sprint, I think we might see George Hincapie take on the rest here. 40 riders left in the race right now, and they might all come together here.
Well, I think Frank Schleck now has decided to put the hammer down and try and conserve as much of that moment advantage as possible.
It's still Vincenzo Nibali and Frank Schleck out in front, going for the stage win. The peloton 1 minute back. It's been a great job by Astana all day long, keeping it right at 60 seconds, protecting the yellow jersey that Levi has on his shoulders.
Come experience the final stage of the world-famous Amgen Tour of California on February 22nd. Watch Lance Armstrong and other top cyclists cross the finish line in Escondido, a place to explore and experience. San Diego North, where there's room to fill your senses. For more information, visit SanDiegoNorth.com/Amgen or call 800-848-3336.
I'm not done yet, no matter how hard I train.
How long I train.
Or when I train. I'm not done until I finish it with EAS Myoplex. Taken within 30 minutes after my workout, the high-quality protein in Myoplex helps me refuel and build lean muscle. That way, I don't waste my workout. Now we're done. For a free bar sample, go to EAS.com.
One punch stunned WEC featherweight champion Uriah Faber and shocked the world. Now, newly crowned champ Mike Brown makes his first defense against #1 contender, Texas bad boy, Leonard Garcia. The WEC on Versus, next Sunday at 9
Sporting Clays is a blast, especially at Colorado Clays, the premier shooting range in the state. Just 5 miles north of DIA, it has 8 voice-controlled trap fields, 2 skeet fields, 2 wobble traps, and a 15-station Sporting Clays course. Open to the public, Colorado Clays can also stage corporate events. We love new shooters. Instruction is available along with rental guns. Visit the Colorado Clays website for more information, and I'll see you at the range.
At age 35, Greg took up skydiving over the Colorado mountains. At age 36, he was gone, struck down by colorectal cancer. Greg was a great athlete, baseball player, surfer, skier. Most people think that colorectal cancer only hits older people, and that's just not true. Greg's family and friends have a website that tells you all about this killer. It's gregscancerfoundation.com. If you have friends and family in their 30s and 40s, check it out. It could save their life.
The 2009 Amgen Tour of California on Versus is brought to you by AEG, giving the world reason to cheer. By EAS, don't waste your workout, finish it with EAS Myoplex. By Amgen, Amgen, pioneering science, delivers vital medicines. Visit us at amgen.com. And by Herbalife, Herbalife, nutrition for a better life. Just north of San Diego, we're in Escondido awaiting the finishers. It's Frank Schleck and Vincenzo Nibali about 15 miles now from the finish. They've gone through all the categorized climbs. They have been working together for a long time now after they were able to drop Bauk Molema and Glenn Chadwick. Back in the chasing group, there is the yellow jersey of Levi Leipheimer. He has been protected all day long except for halfway up Palomar. He got shredded and his teammates fell behind, but then on the descent, they all came back. He's now surrounded by 3 teammates. Those are your leaders yet again. We'll show you now a relationship shot as we pull back to exactly the distance that it takes to cover that minute. But while we get a chance, we have to say hello to UCLA Bruin and Portland Trailblazer great Bill Walton, who I understand all week has been watching at home, recuperating from surgery. We're glad you're tuned in, Bill. And I've got to say thanks to your son, Luke Walton, who's provided some great highlights with the LA Lakers so far this season. Just living in Los Angeles County, it's fantastic to see the Lakers doing so well. But today it is all about cycling. That is the Peloton charging. It's come back to about 1 minute and 10 seconds. But Astana has done exactly what they have needed to do all day long.
Good tempo riding here as we go back into the field. And just looking to the right there, we've got Andy Schleck. Tommy Danielson is down there. Gorman, the Slipstream, have had a very, very good race. They got that great win, don't forget, when Levi Leipheimer took over the race lead. Tom Peterson got the stage win. This man here, Dave Zabriskie, is looking now to finish second overall. 36 seconds behind Levi Leipheimer.
Zabriskie, for me, looks very comfortable and confident with the position that he's sitting in the overall standings at the Amgen Tour of California. And I'm sure that if it all does come back together in the end, once we get into the town of Escondido, you will see a late-minute tack coming from Dave Zabriskie, because if he can get himself 10 or 15 seconds off the front end of the main field, they would have a hard time pulling him back.
Well, Paul's right, Phil. It's basically a 6.8-kilometer time trial once we come off Lake Wolford Road in that descent. So we saw how well Zabriskie was able to do in Solvang. If he can find a way to break away, he does only need, actually, right, guys, 26 seconds, because he'll get a 10-second time bonus at the end.
Well, that's absolutely right. He would get a win bonus if he could win it, but I can't see that happening. Even the great time trialist that he is, I think that Levi would be a little bit too sharp for that. When you ever get shots at Levi, you always see one man is riding to protect him, and that is Chechu Rubiera. He's always by his side, allowing no one else near him. It's the other two, Armstrong and Popovic, who are doing the pacemaking.
Well, Levi is a very sharp man when it comes to tactics, and he will be very alert, Phil, over the next few kilometers. The situation out on the road there, you can see there's not very much difference between the breakaway and the group that contains Levi Leipheimer. I make it less than a mile difference, and that's reflected by the time, which is hovering at 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Third of a mile, half a kilometer. And that's all it is, almost a blanket across the race as it runs down towards the finish. Time running out for everybody. George Hincapie would now just love it all to close down, and then he would just start to negotiate how he might be winning the stage. Just in front of him there at the moment is Rory Sutherland. Haven't seen too much of Rory for the Outs team. He's an Australian. There he is there, 1:02. But he also is a very strong time trial rider.
Mickey Rogers just sitting behind George Hincapie there. I'm sure those two will combine their forces together if they were able to catch the two-man leading group, because George Hincapie, I think, now will be just thinking about getting a slight amount of revenge on his defeat of yesterday into Pasadena.
And also, Paul, I've just noticed Pedro Arillo is here. We saw the sprint he put in the other day.
That is a dangerous man, because he is a Spanish rider on the team who is a very good lead-out man for Oscar Freire, who we know is going to miss out the early part of his Classics campaign, having left the Tour of California with 2 broken ribs.
Continuing to watch our leaders, Frank Schleck, 11 career wins, including that great win in 2006 up Alpe d'Huez, closely followed by Vincenzo Nibali, 15th at the Olympic Games last year in Beijing in the time trial, showing he's got some absolute speed when he needs to.
Well, Floyd Land is still in this group too, number 101, so he'll be pleased with the way his form has turned all week. He's now up with a very select group of bike riders here. And Glenn Chadwick, the breakaway exponent earlier, is just in front of Floyd at the moment. I'm just thinking about that breakaway, Paul. They're going absolutely nowhere, but the bunch is not closing in. They're holding them. And every time I go up there, all the work is being done. Not by Frank Schleck now. We've got a change at the front.
They're sharing. They're sharing the pacemaking at the front end of the main field. And if they want to survive off the front end of this pack, they need to work together. They need to, even if they think they may well lose the stage, you've really got to dig in deep at a situation like this, because if they start playing around and becoming tactical, that 1 minute will get wiped away very quickly. They're in precarious ground here.
Back in the chase group, all the main GC contenders are together. So in these final few miles of stage number 8, they will just mark themselves. Levi Leipheimer has the advantage of numbers. They can keep continuing to bring him to the line, and Levi will simply protect that 36-second lead. Still a lot more to go, though. It's Nibali and Schleck out in front.
We got ADT because I walked in on a burglary once. The physical damage was pretty bad. The emotional toll was even worse. What that robber really took from us was our peace of mind. With ADT, we got it back.
Every 15 seconds, a burglary takes place in the United States. Help protect your family with a fast alarm response of ADT. Call now and get ADT installed for $99, including a keychain remote. ADT, always there.
We live in a mobile society. Our customers can access the internet at 3G speed almost anywhere today. But some people are still tethered to their home or office when they don't need to be. Wireless is more than just a word. It's a way of living.
Try America's most dependable 3G network with Simply Everything Plus mobile broadband. You get wireless 3G for your laptop and unlimited email, web, and talk for your phone. Cut the cord and save $599 a year.
I'm working from the road today.
My Impreza has a Subaru Boxer engine. It's perfectly balanced for performance and handling. I love that engine. And I love anyone else who loves a Subaru engine too.
Impreza love knows no bounds. Love. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
Lease the Subaru Impreza for $179 per month for 36 months with $12.99 due at signing.
I was losing my hair much like other men.
I noticed that my hair was starting to get thin.
Tens of thousands of men and women with hair loss.
I needed to make a change in my life and make a change for the better.
Now regrowing their hair and turning back the clock.
We're talking about taking you back to the past and let you stay there.
All rebuilding their confidence and regaining their edge.
More hair, more confidence.
I have hair now.
It'll be there forever.
All of them all-stars. And all from one place.
MHR.
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 That's what medical hair restoration's all about. Call MHR now for your free DVD presentation plus a free hair and scalp analysis that will map out your individual hair loss.
Our doctors change people's lives. They are passionate and they're excited about it.
And with over 60 locations around the U.S., you're closer than ever to regrowing your hair naturally and permanently. Call Medical Hair Restoration now for your free DVD package. It'll change your life.
Don't wait another day.
It's never too late.
Too late? No.
Just do it.
Here we go. They're going along Lake Wolford yet again, this time back towards Escondido. They call it the Race to the Sun. It's the 67th edition of Paris-Nice on Versus. The top riders in the world head overseas for the grueling 8-stage race. Paris-Nice, March 8th at 5 Eastern, right here on Versus. Thankfully, we have had our fair share of sun in the latter days of the 2009 Amgen Tour of California. About 10 miles left in stage number 8. It is pretty much downhill into Escondido. The 2 leaders already on the decline of Lake Wolford Road. The chasing peloton, that elite group of racers, is within a minute still, but it's Vincenzo Nibali and Frank Schleck still working very well together. The dilemma for Frank Schleck, how much does he work for Vincenzo Nibali to help him get this gap? Because Nibali 2 minutes and 21 seconds down on Levi Leipheimer, but he's only a minute and 11 seconds down on Jens Voigt, who obviously is near the top of the GC standings at the moment in 4th. A lot of great speed on this downhill. This was the hill that they climbed about 20 miles into the stage. So they know this real estate, albeit they were going a lot slower uphill than they are as they head towards the finish. We promised you big crowds by the end of the day. We've already told you that Jim Burrell, the race director of the Amgen Tour of California, has told us this is the largest crowd to ever witness a stage race in the United States. Over 2 million spectators out on the road. That doesn't include the people watching at home here in the United States or the people watching in over 90 countries around the world. Unequivocally, this has been the greatest success in terms of stage racing in the United States, and you can bet that Amgen plans to build on it as they head into the future. But the crowd getting whipped into a frenzy as they await the riders. There will be a winner on the line for the stage, and then of course the GC, Levi Leipheimer hopes, stays on his shoulders. His team has done everything to protect it today.
So Nibali is racing for a stage win and 4th place right now because he's in the right frame of mind, but I think that the race will react to this because there are so many guys wanted. That's a tap on the back there from Frank Schleck, I think, to say, can you just slow down on descent? I'm having a bit of a problem keeping up.
Well, you see they're getting into that very aerodynamic ski-like position. That allows the riders to make themselves almost as aerodynamic as a downhill skier, pushing the pace as high as possible, but also giving them some respite from the pedaling that they've been doing to keep themselves as high as 80 kilometers an hour. Here's the main field sweeping around the corner. That's a fairly large group, we're told, of 31 riders, and still it's nice to see now that there are other teams coming to the front to try and give some assistance to Team Astana, who, as I've said over and over again, are not concerned about a 1-minute gap.
Garmin Slipstream are now in charge at the head of the field here, being shared, I think, with Quick Step and Team Columbia High Road. those teams drive down the mountain now. Astana very happy to take a seat behind just now and see what happens. The gap is 1 minute and 10 seconds. And Nibali, who started the day, 1 minute 11 behind the fourth-placed Jens Voigt, the teammate of Frank Schleck, who is still riding for the stage win.
Well, they're now off that descent, Phil. They're onto the flat part of the course, and very shortly they should be seeing 10 kilometers to go to the finish. And they'll be listening now very attentively to see what the time gaps are behind. They know on a stage like this they've got a very good chance of survival, but what they will want to hear is who is chasing behind.
Well, this is the behind of the peloton as we now see this group. It's around about 40 riders that have got themselves together here. The rest are spread across the mountains. It would not surprise me in the least if the vast majority of those riders behind have now retired from the race, and this might be the majority of the finishers left in the Tour of California this year. They are pedaling off the mountains onto the flat roads on the final approach now to Escondido.
The chasers make that left turn. They are now onto the flat. Now the organization will have to begin in earnest. Who will chase the two out in front? One more stage victory to claim here in California. We have had 8 previous winners leading up to today. It all started with Fabian Cancellara in the prologue, and since then it has been a who's who of cycling greats. Sprinters, climbers, the fastest in the world. The best overall looks to be Levi Leipheimer. Will he confirm it in a moment? We're about to find out.
Every 60 seconds, someone, somewhere is making the switch to Tempur-Pedic. Now it's your turn. Call now for your free information kit, including a Tempur material sample, along with a DVD and catalog. You'll learn about the top 5 reasons for trying Tempur-Pedic. Reason number 1, Tempur-Pedic helps relieve your pain. Unlike metal spring mattresses that can create hundreds of uncomfortable pressure points, Tempur-Pedic supports every curve of your body.
It kind of cushions you or cradles you, and you literally sleep that way the whole night. It's fantastic.
Reason number 2, Tempur-Pedic helps relieve stress. As soon as you close your eyes, all the pressures from your day will seem to melt away. Reason number 3, Tempur-Pedic comforts you and your partner. The authentic Swedish Tempur material becomes soft where you want it and firm where you need it. Plus, Tempur-Pedic's proprietary design does not transfer motion when you or your partner gets in or out of bed.
Now when he gets into bed or he moves around, it doesn't affect me on my side. And we both can sleep very comfortably.
Reason number 4, Tempur-Pedic gives you a 20-year worry-free warranty. For 20 years, you won't have to worry about having to replace your mattress.
Having had to replace 2 beds in the last 10 years, I find it comforting to know that we have a 20-year warranty.
Reason number 5, you can try Tempur-Pedic risk-free for 90 days.
It took one night, and that was it. And I was completely hooked.
This is your chance to try the bed that everyone's talking about.
Call 1-800-727-7029 for your free information kit and Tempur material sample. That's 1-800-727-7029. Call 1-800-727-7029 today.
These bulls are some of the greatest athletes in the world. The things they can do and the size they are is totally amazing.
I've never seen another animal that could weigh over 2,000 pounds, that could jump 6 foot in the air and still be spinning 100 miles an hour.
They're not just big dumb animals.
One punch stunned WEC featherweight champion Uriah Faber and shocked the world.
I don't believe what I just saw.
Now, newly crowned champ Mike Brown.
It's been a long road, man.
Makes his first defense against #1 contender, Texas bad boy, Leonard Garcia.
At 145, who wants some? I want me a title shot.
The WEC on Versus. Next Sunday at 9/8 Central.
Less than 6 miles to go in this 97-mile stage under the 10-kilometer banner. It's stage 8, the final stage of the 2009 Amgen Tour of California. Frank Schleck and Vincenzo Nibali, a great move coming up the final categorized climb of the day, Colgrade Road, and since then they've been on their own.
65 scant seconds separates these two from the remainder of the Tour of California. The podium places are still in the bunch. Remember, in big-time stage racing, all of those riders who finish together get the same time. So there'll be no change tonight. Levi Leipheimer will win this race ahead of Dave Zabriskie and Michael Rogers. Who will be fourth? That's still very much in doubt. It could be Nibali up the road.
Levi Leipheimer comfortably sitting in that pack. And a few moments ago, guys, look at this. Lance Armstrong and Levi sharing a moment at high speeds. I think Levi saying, thank you very much, Lance Armstrong, for getting me to this point.
Well, Lance Armstrong, of course, has been a faithful teammate. Leipheimer was isolated only briefly out there. Now here he is riding on the wheel of Armstrong, who has been an absolute mountain today. Big Lance is back enjoying his bike riding. Levi Leipheimer has nothing more to do now. When he was called on to do something, he did it. And now he can just ride home.
I think Levi Leipheimer there realizing that he's got a great solid team still around him on these final few kilometers. He knows, I think, that if they need to, they can pick up the pacemaking and halve the advantage that these riders have got. The last official time check to these two leaders was 1 minute and 5 seconds, and I think it's going in the right direction for Levi Leipheimer. That's why there was a little sign of congratulations there, maybe a sign of thank you very much for a great job done today.
But going off of your formula as well, Paul, the other teams pushing the pace, trying to get the stage win. You see that single file line, they could still get caught, the two out in front.
They still can get caught, and that's why this is going to be a very close run to the line here. They could get themselves caught inside of the final couple of kilometers. Oscar Sevilla has decided he wants to come up to the front end of the main field, and it's now come down to a single minute's advantage, 60 mere seconds.
1 minute and closing. This looks like Trent Lowe doing all the work for the Garmin Slipstream boys here as he drives on. And there's a lot of teams want these back, and that doesn't all well now. Rock Racing, Garmin Slipstream, Team Hyro Columbia, all putting in the pace just behind Quickstep, all working. And if you get all of these teams pulling as one, they cannot survive.
Well, they really need a serious concerted effort if they want to pull them back. At the moment, Phil, they're not pulling them back fast enough. They're pulling them back at around about 5 seconds for every kilometer of the race, and they're running out of kilometers.
I wish we knew how many right now, but we know that we've probably got about 7 kilometers to go. So 5 seconds a kilometer, 35 seconds, they're not going to catch. They're going to have to close in quicker than that, Paul. This is Astana now, just gathering around their man, the little man, the Queen Bee, Levi Leipheimer, and something's happening on the far side of the road there. Is that a flat tyre?
Yep, flat tyre for one of the riders from Rabobank, and the team car up alongside him. Let's see how quickly this is going to be.
Well, it looked as though it might be Peter Weening.
I think it is Peter Weening who's had a flat tyre on the far side of the road there, and hopefully he'll get a quick change and get himself back into the main field.
But he won't get back, not while they're travelling at this sort of speed. Now, international rules, by the way, if that happened in the last 3 kilometres, he would have got the same time as that group, but now he'll get a different time if he doesn't rejoin.
Levi Leipheimer on his shoulder there in the Garmin Slipstream team is Dave Zabriskie, second in the overall classification. Zabriskie will now keep also a very close eye on the shape of Mickey Rogers. First place overall, and the kilometers are ticking by for Levi Leipheimer. Almost 30 hours in the saddle when he adds up today's stage, and that's been a good job of work this week.
Very good job of work. He must be feeling absolutely superb inside now. 8 days of top-class racing, sometimes in atrocious, very dangerous weather conditions. Now it's all behind him. And the third victory, what was that time check?
2 kilometers to go to the finish, Phil. And so
they're going to survive them.
They are going to survive, because at the main field, with all of the stars of the peloton that have survived this final stage of the Amgen Tour of California, Phil, I really believe this time they've left it just too late, because it's 55 seconds with 2K to go. It's all over bar the shouting, but which of the 2 men in the front is going to win?
Glenn Chadwick and Volk Palomar must be cursing. They couldn't quite hang on that climb of Colgrade. They went back to the pack. These two pushed on, And we're now in the streets of Escondido. Beautiful. There's the kilometre across the road ahead now. Nibali has suddenly found he's got fresh legs here. He's racing for 4th place as well. That will decide on where the peloton finish across the line, because he will get a bonus, either a win or 2nd place today.
Frank Schleck sitting in 2nd position. I have to say I'm going to tip Frank Schleck for the win here this afternoon, but Nibali has got the bit between his teeth. They've had a little bit of a ding-dong battle, these two riders, between each other, but really Nibali is riding here, Phil, for the time on the stage, which is why I give the advantage to Frank Schleck.
That's a very good point. And in fact, Frank Schleck, the winner of the Amstel Gold race, which is a huge classic in Holland a couple of years ago. So these are two quality bike riders contesting now the end of the last stage of the Amgen Tour of California. A first time ever grand finish in Escondido. Look at the crowds. That has epitomized California this last 8 days. Almost 2 million people have stood on the side in often terribly atrocious weather conditions.
Frank Schleck just sitting there in the slipstream, sitting in the slipstream of Lance Armstrong. It looks now as if almost certainly Levi Leipheimer is going to win himself this bike race. He's comfortably at the front end of the main field. And Phil, have you ever seen a crowd like this in the United States?
No, and I don't think anybody else has as we swing here. Nibali leads around the corner, 300 meters now. It's a little bit too early, but Frank Schleck has got the advantage. Nibali is going to have to open it up, but I think it's all a formality now. Nibali knows it. He'll continue to race for time as Frank Schleck gives Saxo Bank the icing on the cake. They promised a hard weekend for Levi. The result is Frank Schleck gets the win, the champion of Luxembourg. Nibali is over in 2nd place. The clock starts now. Is Nibali going to finish 4th or 5th?
Or 6th. It all depends. It's all very close. There you can see the front end of the main field. Levi Leipheimer. It's rock racing all over the front of the peloton now, trying to whip up the pacemaking. Number 2, a job done. Great job done by Lance Armstrong at the back of the main field. He did the job for the boys here this afternoon. In fact, it's Floyd Landisville leading them home with Hincapie right up there in 2nd position.
As the out racing team battles for the line there, they've gone underneath the camera, but George Hincapie is taking on Rory Sutherland, and it's going to be no, it's not. Hincapie's going to just get it ahead of Rory Sutherland, and then it is Chechu Rubiera who brings home the man who has won the Amgen Tour of California. He still was checking where he was, even when he was crossing the finishing line. He was safe, Chechu. Levi Leipheimer has done it. 3 wins in 3 years.
Absolutely phenomenal. But this year, the team that supported him, Phil, were absolutely brilliant. They supported him all of the way. He was in difficulty, I would say, at one stage today when we got halfway around the course, but they never panicked. And I think that is the secret about Team Astana. They do not panic. They know they can pull themselves back together, and that's what they did in the last part of this race.
Well, it's time for a cool, refreshing drink in downtown Escondido now. We're really in a grand suburb of San Diego. And Levi Leipheimer goes up and says thank you very much indeed there to his team. He relied on them heavily. Congratulations there from Enrique Gutierrez as well, of putting quite an attack today. Now it's all about thanks, interviews, and a visit to the podium. Floyd Landis there, waving to the crowd. He's completed his comeback to big-time cycling as well. He started off slowly with a mid-term finish in the prologue in Sacramento. He's got better every day.
Congratulations there from Andy Schleck as well. I think this has been a solid victory here over the 9 days of racing that we've had at the Amgen Tour of California. But from the moment that Levi Leipheimer pulled on the yellow jersey of leadership, he hardly really looked threatened.
Levi Leipheimer. Go ahead, Phil.
No, carry on.
I was just going to say Leipheimer, the same result after they added a day this year. They went further south than they ever had, and they went higher elevation than the Amgen Tour of California has ever gone. There's your stage winner, stage 8, Frank Schleck, Team Saxo Bank. A great result for him all day long, beating Nibali at the line. It was George Hincapie who led the chase group across, winning the sprint ahead of Roy Sutherland.
And look at the time, 39 seconds. So that means that Nibali didn't get the 4th place off Schleck's teammate Jens Voigt, who finished 8th anyway on the day, and Leipheimer crossing the line there in 9th. A bit further down there for you, Brisky, who will finish 2nd overall, 11th, and Glenn Chadwick, who's in the breakaway, 15th. So it all worked out for Saxo Bank today, really, didn't it?
It certainly did, but in fact Nibali may well be very close to the time of Lance Armstrong in 6th.
everybody with
A kiss for his wife, Odessa. When we come back, we are going to wrap everything up here in San Diego. The town of Escondido has served as the backdrop for Levi Leipheimer's celebration. He and Team Astana have done it. Leipheimer for the 3rd year in a row, showing that he is by far the strongest here in February. It is official. Over 2 million people have sat on the sides of the roads of California, making this the largest sporting event ever attended in California. Frank Schleck celebrates on the final day, but overall, it has been all Levi. We'll come back and continue.
If you've been putting off getting new carpet for your home, now's the time to put it back on. Because the Home Depot has a new lower price for carpet installation. Only $139 for your whole house, no matter how many rooms. We've lowered the price on over 1,000 items throughout the store, including carpet. So you'll pay the lowest total price for your carpet project, guaranteed. New carpet has never been more affordable, with basic installation for just $139, no matter how many rooms. Only at the Home Depot. You can do it, we can help.
When the road ahead is full of twists and turns and you can't see what's around the corner, it helps to have someone to safely guide the way. Rabobank is your safe and sound banking leader. Well capitalized and conservative, Rabobank can help you navigate the challenges on the road ahead. As part of one of the safest banks in the world, we'll keep your money safe, secure, and growing. Ride safe, bank safe with Rabobank NA, official bank of the Amgen Tour of California.
Batter's up, and so is Jones, checking the sign to the men's room.
Oh, not the first time. He's going over and over.
Now Johnson's rounding the corner, heading for the men's room.
Going urgently.
You bet. Carter steps out. He was in there a long time.
Stopping and starting. These guys should see their doctor.
Good point. Could be male urinary symptoms due to BPH, an enlarged prostate.
For many guys, prescription Flomax reduces their urinary symptoms due to BPH in 1 week.
1 week?
Only your doctor can tell if you have BPH, not a more serious condition like prostate cancer.
Avoid driving or hazardous tasks for 12 hours after your first dose or increase in dose, as a sudden drop in blood pressure may occur, rarely resulting in fainting. If considering cataract surgery, tell your eye surgeon you've taken Flomax.
Common side effects are runny nose, dizziness, and decrease in semen.
Ask your doctor if Flomax is right for you.
Call 877-4FLOMAX to see if you qualify for up to $40 off Flomax prescription.
For many men, Flomax can make a difference in 1 week.
The 2009 Amgen Tour of California on Versus is brought to you by AEG, giving the world reason to cheer. By EAS, don't waste your workout, finish it with EAS Myoplex. By Amgen. Amgen, pioneering science, delivers vital medicines. Visit us at amgen.com. And by Breakaway from Cancer. No one should have to face cancer alone. Go to breakawayfromcancer.com. As Phil mentioned earlier, Frank Schleck has won the Amstel Gold Race. He's won a tour of the he was on a stage of the Tour de France, and now he wins a stage here at the Amgen Tour of California. As we said, going to break, over 2 million spectators have shown up on the side of the road for the Amgen Tour of California, making it the largest attended event ever in the state of California. Yet another accolade for the organizers, but the accolades now belong to the riders, guys.
Yes, well, there's the big, all the public now waiting for the moment when they will welcome on stage all of the winners overall and, of course, the prize winners of the day. As the media here has turned out in number, as they did in Australia, to see Lance Armstrong make his return. This incredibly popular cyclist. They've all got their Lance fan yellow boards all holding to wave should they get to see Lance on the podium. I don't see why they should see Lance on the podium today, but you never know.
Well, I think we might see him on the podium today because
courageous.
I have a funny feeling that Team Astana might have won themselves the team prize, which is something they will be quite pleased with.
Yeah, that's a good point. They've been leading the team. They'll all have been given the same time to go, so you're right. They'll have gone out as team winners, so the whole team will be up there. Fittingly enough, they are the best team. They finished all 9 of their riders, and no other team in the race has done that. All 8 of the riders. Sorry.
Escondido, one of these sleepy suburbs of San Diego. Not only has the town turned out, but fans from all around. Let's take a look, guys, at the highlights of our past 9 days here in California, Paul, starting with the prologue in Sacramento.
Well, right in the capital of California, Lance Armstrong was one of the last riders to go off, and it was amazing to see the performance that he put in. And if you just listen to the crowd, I think they were extremely happy that Lance was back.
They most certainly were, and he turned in a very good time trial for his return. It wasn't to be amongst the leaders. This is the determined face on Levi Leipheimer. He just launched himself out of that start house. This is the man who could already see Escondido, and he was turning out the time and the style. Yes, it wasn't to be as good as the man that would win the day, but he would only just miss the top by a couple of seconds.
Well, that was
set the best time was Fabian Cancellara.
But that was an indication, Phil, that Levi Leipheimer had the form. But how can you beat this man? He is superb when it comes to the individual time trial. After all, he's the Olympic gold medalist at this discipline. When he crossed the line, he set the bar so high that nobody else was going to beat him on day one. And as he got onto the podium, he got the first yellow jersey with the governor of the state of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So our first stage on the road, Phil, was from Davis to Santa Rosa, and even though it was dry in Sacramento, the skies opened up this day.
Well, this was the first horrible day, I suppose, of many more during a year of a professional racing cycle. But Francisco Mancebo was back, and he was on his own. He was climbing through the rain by himself, and the riders behind were holding him in sight, and they were waiting for the opportunity, but they weren't going to get it. This man spoiled the fun for Levi Leipheimer. He rode into Leipheimer's hometown alone, and he survived.
Well, he was chased, though, by a serious selection. We didn't expect a selection on the first day, but the selection was made by 5 riders from Team Astana, who dragged 21 riders away. They didn't pull it all back together for Mancebo, who survived the return of 2 other riders, but got himself victory on day 1. And, of course, he got himself a yellow jersey to boot on a day that saw the abandon of Fabian Cancellara.
Yes, poor Fabian was ill, but at the top now was the Spanish rider. Onto the second stage, took the riders onto Santa Cruz. Another 116 dreadful miles for the riders. The first time crossing of the Golden Gate Bridge, but it was a shame we couldn't see the beautiful sights from that historic wonder. They stayed dressed under the racing capes. The yellow jersey nowhere to be seen as Francesco Mancebo himself was out in the pack. A puncture for Levi Leipheimer, happily early on, a routine change. He was back in the convoy. Soon he was back in the race. A breakaway up front was looking to decide the day. Then this man had other ideas. On the climb of Bonnie Doon, he attacked. He looked, anybody coming? No, I've got the gap. Levi Leipheimer put his head down and flew.
This was the moment that we realized that Levi Leipheimer was certainly the man on form in February for the Amgen Tour of California. We knew he had the form, and he made his way through the field to catch the remnants of an early morning breakaway. And once he'd made the junction, there was absolutely no stopping him at all, and he charged on down towards the finish line.
Only one man sat on his back wheel, Tom Peterson. He's allowed to do that. He's a youngster of 22 in his first big bike race, so he followed him home, and he would win the day. It was all about time for Levi Leipheimer. Tom Peterson lived his greatest moment, while Levi Leipheimer had gained enough time now for his greatest moment, at least of this week. He was about to pull on his first leader's jersey of this race.
A successful, good tactical move, removing Francesco Mancebo from the top of the overall classification, and also putting time between himself and everybody else.
So in stage number 3, they would run from San Jose to Modesto. The rain would return yet again. The yellow jersey protected there by a rain jacket. But as expected, the attacks would start early, but by the end, Phil, it would return to the first bunch sprint.
They even reduced the race distance by just 3 miles. Mancebo himself was out hunting to get maximum points at the top here of the Sierra Road, but he would then fall back into the field. He was still full of fight. Chris Horner, though, watch at the back, a touch of wheels. That was Leipheimer being buried as he hit the wheel of none other than his teammate Lance Armstrong. Embarrassing, yes. Painful, yes. But it wasn't an out-of-the-race crash.
No, he got himself a quick bike change and back into the main field, but when they charged into town, the race was pretty much under control of all of the sprinters, looking for Tom Boonen, looking for Mark Cavendish, but that wasn't going to be on this day because coming out of the pack was the God of Thunder, Thor Hushovd.
Who better to win on a day of heavy rain than Thor Hushovd? He brought them home to the line with a very easy sprint win indeed, ahead of Oscar Freire on the right, who was quite disappointed.
Stage 4, Paul, would see us go into the Sierras for the first time. Merced de Clovis, 115 miles.
And again, early on, the Francisco Mancebo trying to get himself points, but this was a stage marred by crashes. Kim Kirken in the yellow out of the Amgen Tour. Also in that crash out, Oscar Freire.
A dozen riders went out of the race on this day, reducing the field to little more than 100. And sadly, we lost some big names. But then it was lining up for the finish. And if there was any doubt that Mark Cavendish, who was not the fastest man in the world, watch this as Tom Boonen takes him on. He didn't know Tom was closing in, though. He put his hands up and Tom says, hey, I may have got that. He said, no, I didn't. There was the photo finish. He had won it, but he said, I learned something, and that's not to celebrate too soon anymore.
Well, that was a learned lesson for a young professional bike rider. Stage 5 took the riders a little bit further down the road from Visalia to Paso Robles, a ride of 108 miles.
Yes, and those riders now out in beautiful warm conditions. Life was changing for the better here as the riders fanned out now, lining up for the finish here. Cavendish wasn't going to take any chances this time, and this time he showed he really was the fastest man in the world. Taken to the front by Mark Renshaw and then launched into orbit. As he makes the run, he was giving a perfect lead out to Tom Boonen, but this was proving that Tom Boonen simply isn't fast enough on a one-on-one, and Cavendish hits the line again.
Stage 6, well, Levi's still in yellow as he looked towards stage 6, the time trial, the day he had been waiting for and pointing towards.
The man that would set the time that would survive for some of the day at least, the Beijing Olympic time trial silver medalist, Gustav Larsen, fastest at midway. At the finish, 30:57 was the time to beat. Then it was Dave Zabrisky's turn to have a go.
4 times American time trial champion Zabriskie has been looking on excellent form throughout the whole of this week. When he got to the half distance, a brand new time, and when he got to the finish line, a new best time, the time that everyone now was going to have to try and beat. But all eyes, Phil, 3 men to go, were on Lance Armstrong, returning to time trialing since his retirement from the sport in 2005.
Armstrong's almost solely, single-handedly responsible for the huge crowd in Solvang, but it wasn't going to match Zabrisky's 30:48.9. The yellow jersey of Levi Leipheimer, who's won on this circuit twice before, holds the record at 29 minutes and 40 seconds. Hits the check out there, 2 seconds quicker than Zabriskie. It's all on now as Leipheimer returns to town. He was driving home knowing he was going to take this race on the day with the best time. He zooms into the home straight, driven on by the banner down the road. He knew that he was about to better Zabriskie's time of 30:48.9. As he approached the line, he would record a time of 30 minutes and 40 seconds and wave 3 fingers. That's 3 time trial victories here in 3 years.
Yesterday, it was going to be Santa Clarita to Pasadena, a carbon copy, Paul, of the stage last year that George Hincapie won.
Certainly a very difficult stage, but Tour de France-like crowds coming out to greet the riders. Hincapie felt about that he wanted to go out on the attack one more time. But again, accidents there on the left-hand side of the road. The man who led the King of the Mountains classification at the start of the day, Francisco Mancebo, was down and ended up with a broken hand at the end of the day.
The big crowds in Pasadena as the riders completed 5 circuits outside the Rose Bowl were treated to a sprint extraordinaire, and Rinaldo Nocentini who grabbed it from Hayden Royalston of New Zealand and Team Cervelo. On the left was the winner. The third rider there was Peter Weening. That was a hat trick, but the jersey stayed rightly on the shoulders of Levi Leipheimer.
And that had brought us to today, Paul, the final stage, of course, leading us into Escondido.
And the big showdown everybody expected, and as soon as they brought in the flag, we got onto the climb, and the attacks came thick and fast. The first man to try and get himself plenty of points, Jason McCartney, taking over the leader of King of the Mountains race after the abandon of Mancebo and getting himself maximum points. And they were still away on the second climb of the day, a little bit further up the road.
Yes, as they continue the climb, hats off to McCartney, inheriting the jersey, was now taking out the first 2 climbs of the day. The sprint itself in Harris Rincon, Carlos Burrido was heading a small breakaway group of 7. Ben Jacquemain was second there. He would abandon not long afterwards.
But it was all about the big Palomar mountain, and there Team Saxo Bank really put the pressure onto the shoulders of Levi Leipheimer. They threw caution to the wind completely and utterly, and then on the way down towards the finish, it was all control. And Frank Schleck from Luxembourg got himself the victory to top and tail this event for Team Saxo Bank.
Saxo Bank came to win today, and win they did as he led home from Nibali. And the peloton were closing in rapidly from that 1 minute 10 all day. They were going to come over the line just 36 seconds later. And it was a battle between the first 2 finishes on the final stage last year. The second place rider here, Rory Sutherland, and the man about to break in the yellow on the right, George Hincapie. Hincapie races to the line and just pips Rory Sutherland for 3rd.
So we head to the podium for the stage. The top 3, Frank Schleck, Vincenzo Nibali, and of course, George Hincapie. Looks as though Mark Cavendish, that's George stepping onto the 3rd place position. So George, who won the last stage of last year's Amgen Tour of California, he tried desperately yesterday, Paul. Today, at least he gets on the podium.
He gets on the podium. I'm sure he would have preferred the top step of the podium, but they could do nothing to pull back the 2 men who broke away a long way out from the finish. Vincenzo Nibali was looking to climb a bit higher in the overall classification, and at the end of the day, he sacrificed the victory for time and moves up in the standings, but finishes 2nd on the stage.
So he's waiting now to call out the man who won the stage, the champion of Luxembourg, a career 12th victory for Frank Schleck. And he's a pretty popular guy. He speaks very good English, and he's very popular here in the USA. But where is he?
Just waiting. He's having a few interviews down to the side there, but he'll be coming up immediately, as I can see the red, white and blue jersey of the tricolor of champion of Luxembourg just over to the left-hand side.
Frank Schleck, of course, his brother Andy Schleck and Kim Kierken, who unfortunately had to leave this race a few days ago, Phil, make up that huge cycling community of Luxembourg.
Yep, absolutely. And poor Kim Kierken, because I think his crash where he broke his collarbone and fractured his scaphoid, he's going to be out for a few weeks yet. But there is Frank Schleck. Happy days for him. He worked very, very hard to get this victory, as did his brother, as usual. It's the old Schleck 1-2, and this time it's Frank who topped it off at the end.
Well, you can't say that he didn't try yesterday, because on the run into Pasadena, he was also on the move, looking to try and harden up the race. They prepared this weekend specifically, I think, to try and rumble Levi Leipheimer, but that was not going to be the case for Team Saxo Bank.
Saxo Bank, the instigators all day long. It pays off in a stage win. Frank Schleck crosses just in front of Vincenzo Nibali. George Hincapie wins that sprint 39 seconds behind, ahead of Rory Sutherland, to round out a large group, Phil, that came in at that 39-second mark. Right now, let's send it down to Bob Roll, who has caught up with the winner of the 2009 Amgen Tour of California, Levi Leipheimer.
Absolutely brutal day out on the roads today. You even had to go up the road by yourself, and any nervous moments out there in the finale of the race today?
Well, you know, halfway through the stage, Palomar, I'll tell you what, that was a big climb. I mean, this is Tour de France caliber, or category, whatever you want to call it. You're looking around, there's like 6, 7 guys, best climbers in the world, and it felt like it was July. And the amount of fans up there, and yeah, it was hard. Definitely a little bit uncomfortable, but I knew that Chechu, Lance, Popo, they did an amazing job. They came back, controlled it to the next climb, and I tell you what, Lance put his foot down on Colgrade. It was awesome.
And for yourself, you started training quite a few months ago for this specifically. You've won 3 in a row now. That must be a great feeling after training so hard specifically for this Amgen Tour of California.
Yeah, it gets sweeter and sweeter. I mean, to win it once was awesome. Twice was like, wow, but 3 times, you know, that's just an exclamation point for me.
And what was it like going through the throngs of the people in the last few kilometers of the race, sitting on the wheel of Lance Armstrong?
Yeah, you know, you never forget that. You'll never forget that, and I hope I get to pay him back. I really do.
All right, great job. Congratulations, Levi.
Thank you.
A lot more racing to go in 2009. Levi saying he's willing to work later on in the year, but they all worked for him here, Phil.
Yes, they did, and that was the way they came into this race, and this is the result going out of it now. Nibali held on to 6th place in the end, 1:35. He replaced Lance Armstrong there. Lance went down to 7th at 1:46. Robert Gessing, best young rider there at 8th. Now, the most courageous ride of the day jersey, and it looks as though Frank Schleck has been given that a good decision.
I think an excellent decision. He was very aggressive out on the road, very courageous to stay in the leading group, Phil. And there, as you can see, he's receiving the Amgen breakaway from Cancer Blue jersey.
Yes, being made here by Stuart Arbuckle, Amgen's Vice President General Manager of Oncology Business Unit there, congratulating Frank Schleck. And I must say that Stuart looks as fit as Frank Schleck here.
He certainly does. I think Frank Schleck has proved to us, though, here, Phil, through the Amgen Tour of California, he is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the 2009 season.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think he's had a great day out. He's carrying away some good form here now, Frank Schleck, as he goes off stage and voted now the most courageous rider. So 2 big prizes for Frank today. This is how he did it. But if you remember, Frank was in the thick of the action. At one stage they dropped back, then decided, no, we'll go up again, and they went back to Glenn Chadwick. And then finally, on that nasty climb of Colgrade, Frank put his foot down and took only Nibali with him. Result, win at the end. There's the big crowd here. Another long traffic jam. I never thought we'd sit in traffic jams like the Tour de France at the Tour of California, but last night, going down to the finish, we were in traffic jams for 3 hours.
That was 2 days in a row, because coming out of Solvang was no picnic either, was it, Paul?
No, it certainly wasn't, but I tell you what, the crowd have really warmed to this event. Amazing to think that a bicycle race can get more spectators than any other sporting event in the state of California.
The Golden State, known for a number of great things, now without question the Amgen Tour of California on the map as we await Robert Gessing coming onto the stage for the best young riders jersey. And it throws you off a little bit, doesn't it? Because Gessing is on the Rabobank team, and it's a Rabobank sponsored jersey.
And of course, he's winning it for the 3rd year in succession, as Phil has said on a number of occasions throughout this Amgen Tour of California.
This guy never gets old.
He can't do it again because he's just reached the maximum.
Well, he just never gets old, does he? But there we are. He gets a prize of $5,000, a 3rd year in succession. While Leipheimer wins the race for 3 years, Gessing has been his bridesmaid, if you like, winning this for 3 years.
You guys might have to nickname him Peter Pan for the rest of the year. They just won't let him grow up, will they?
Absolutely not, but I tell you what, watch out for this guy in the future, because when he starts to mature and gets a little bit older and stronger, he's going to be a Tour de France man.
Definitely, definitely. Let's have a look at how Gessing got on in his Tour of California here. Young man out of the start house here in the time trial. It's Solvang. He just loves this race, and it sets him off, he hopes, for a great year ahead. Very good tactician. Tell me a Dutchman that doesn't know how to race a bike, Paul. They're all clever bike riders, aren't they?
They certainly are. They're great tacticians, and that's why he's got himself once again to the top of that competition. The best young rider in this year's Amgen Tour of California.
Gessing, no stranger to success outside of California. He led Paris-Nice for a few days last year, ended up finishing 4th on GC, also 4th GC, Phil, at the Dauphiné Libéré. As we see now Mark Cavendish come on, he will get the final Herbalife points jersey.
He's very, very happy too. He took the lead here after his 2nd stage win, and now he's hung on without having really scored again since, because the mountains have been a bit high.
Well, he had to survive, and that's the tough thing when you're a sprinter, Phil. You have a great deal of difficulty, or sometimes even an allergy to the high mountains, but you have to survive. You have to stay in the bike race, and that's what Mark Cavendish has done today. And it would have been a long, lonely ride, I would have to say, for him over Palomar Mountain on the way down to Escondido.
Yes, he gets the Herbalife points jersey here, but he's thinking, of course, of the green jersey for the Tour de France. And this was a good rehearsal to get to the finish in Escondido, because he's got to get to Paris over the Pyrenees to win it there. This is how he did it. That was a terrific win. That was his second win, and this time he was the clear winner. He's a cool operator, and he's a very, very nice guy, and he's going to be, again, like guessing, one of the world's big names in the next 2 years. That's if he isn't already.
I think that's his finish at the end of today's stage as he comes in with what we are usually in the main professional live time to call the laughing group.
Those are your standings. Cavendish on top, 36-22. It was Nibali, actually, who got closest. Frank Schleck, 19 points total.
Yeah, well, Nibali got good points for second place today, you see. So I think next up we should see the Californian Tourism King of the Mountains competition, which is the red jersey. And Jason McCartney here was always lying second in this competition because of Mancebo when they were on the long breakaway together on that very wet Sunday in the Tour a week ago. And he inherited last night when Mancebo crashed out, but he's been a good leader. He won the first 2 climbs today. Saxo Banks had a good day out, and now he rightly takes the first prize here again, $5,000 as King of the Mountains.
Well, he's battled for that, and he battled out today to do pride to that jersey on the open road, and certainly he and his team, I have to say, were phenomenal over this last weekend of racing. There you can see he got the jersey after the abandon of Francesco Mancebo, riding alongside Levi Leipheimer, but knowing he needed to defend it on what was a very difficult final day of racing.
Yes, defended he did too. Proud to wear the leader's jersey of any competition, but you want to prove you really are the best if you're wearing it, and I think he did just that. At the end of the day, a 17-point advantage over Tyler Hamilton. Serge Powell, who came good in the last 3 days of this race, he finished third. Leipheimer himself, you must be near the lead in the King of the Mountains if you win the Tour. He's finished fourth, and Mollema in 5th place there. Dear me, there's an awful lot of people come out of the coffee shop.
Well, I think the coffee shop's probably full, Phil. That's why they've all come out into the street here for an incredible celebration. It really has been remarkable, despite the fact that the first couple of days here at the Amgen Tour of California, it wasn't the best California weather that we are used to. But since the weather came back, the crowds have absolutely multiplied.
What they're waiting for are for all 5 jerseys to come out on stage together. We've highlighted them all for you, of course, culminating. There he is, Levi Leipheimer. He will get the final yellow, and as we've said already, for the 3rd year in a row, this man pockets the money as well as the accolades.
Well, he takes the final yellow jersey, and a big check is about to come his way here, as he now looks at that with pride. And I think Joe Miletich here, the Senior Vice President, Research and Development of Amgen, is the man giving the jersey to the overall winner for the 3rd year in succession.
Well, Levi Leipheimer, I have to say, Phil, would have been under a lot of pressure. When you've won a race on 2 occasions in the past and you're trying to win it for a 3rd, you've got a big number on your bag, a big sticker that everybody is looking at. They will all have been looking at Levi Leipheimer saying, this guy wants to win. We will base our race on him. But nobody could match him on stage 2 when he flew the coupe and really left everybody, all of his rivals, trailing.
It didn't matter, the best laid plans for all these teams. We take a look back at how it all started, Phil. It was the prologue, but then it really was stage number 2 when Levi took off.
The look, the attack, the pride, say it all here for Levi Leipheimer. Big moments, the 3 fingers that got him his 3rd time trial victory. Claims the roads of Solvang once again as he continued to improve. As always, this race won by second, no exception. The chase home today, that's Levi in the middle. Chechu looks around, makes sure he's still safe. And Lance Armstrong congratulates Levi. They've done it again. Let's have a look at the overall standings.
Levi Leipheimer on top. Zabriskie couldn't close it all on the final day. He finishes 36 seconds back. Michael Rogers-Paul rounds out the podium.
Yes, Jens Voigt was solid there in 4th place and was always a threat, I have to say, on today's stage. Thomas Lovquist in 5th place. But looking just a little bit further down, that ride by Vincenzo Nibali did move him up in the overall standings to 6th, dislodging Lance Armstrong down into 7th place. I'm not sure that Lance, though, will be too concerned about that.
Not at all. Armstrong's mate, Rubiera, there in 10th place. Kevin Saildrives, 11th, second young rider, Kevin. Oscar Sevilla, despite his bad back, it's better. He's finishing in 13th. Top 20 completed by Enrique Gutierrez.
Gutierrez tried to get away earlier today, but he was brought back to that group. Well, the man who finished second from Garmin Slipstream, David Zabriskie, is with Bob.
Dave Zabriskie at the end, a great ride. How hard was today's stage, and after especially a week of hard racing?
Today was a very difficult stage as promised in the profile, and just really got to say thanks to my team. They really helped me all week long, and this result is a part of teamwork.
Did you get any course reports from Floyd Landis before the race started?
Floyd and I used to drive to the bottom of Palomar and do it. It's a lot easier with some riding beforehand. But yeah, he's a good guy.
And you had a fantastic time trial, one of the best that you've had in quite a while. Does that bode well for the rest of this year?
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely at a higher level than I have been the past few years. Last year I was coming into some good form right when I had the accident and fractured my back. So it's nice to be back and have a good result and good feelings with my body.
Did you enjoy the crowds out here? A couple of million people along the race route.
Yeah, it was amazing. Today it was unbelievable. At the top, they were tripping over each other and falling down, and it was crazy.
And the Garmin was a lot of guys in the finale trying to chase the breakaway down and keeping you out of trouble. That must have been a good feeling also.
Yeah, it's been a great team, great strong guys, young guys, winning stages. We had our own cooks this week. They did a great job. I mean, just the whole package was there this week, and really appreciate all that they did.
Congratulations, Dave.
Thank you.
Just saw in the crowd Bob and Yvonne Leipheimer, Levi's parents, who have spent the last, I believe, right, Phil, 4 days here following Levi around. Yep. This is probably the first chance they have to talk to him.
Well, yes, it's best to leave a guy alone when he's working on winning a big race. They do the same on the Tour de France when he rides there. But, you know, you've got to stay out the way. It's up to the rest. Go back to you, Craig.
All right, well, let's send it back down to Bob. Mark Cavendish now spending some time with Bobke.
At the end of the day, Mark, 2 stage wins and the green jersey. Pretty gratifying Amgen Tour of California this year.
Yeah, really happy. I'm a bit of a nightmare that I had to finish the stage today to get it, though. You know, it was a real hard way to finish the tour actually today, so I'm a bit tired now. But yeah, the team's so brilliant. We got on the podium and we got a jersey, so we can be happy with that.
You had to suffer quite a bit today to make it within the time limit in the gruppetto, just to keep that green jersey on your back.
Yeah, it was tough, you know, but I've got a great pilot with Michael Barry, you know, who stays with me on every climb. He stayed with me all throughout this tour, and he's actually got me through the tour, I'd say. And yeah, and you know, the gruppetto works well together, and we came in, we had plenty of time to spare, 30 minutes from the leader, so we were okay.
Outside of the Grand Tours, have you ever seen crowds like this at a bike race?
Never, and outside of Grand Tours, I haven't really seen a field like this at a race, you know. I actually feel like I've finished a big race actually, and yeah, it's great to see so many people here. You know, at the finish at the start every day is loads of people. It's great to see that outside of Europe. You know,
you really established yourself as the preeminent sprinter in the world today. That must be also pretty satisfying.
Yeah, it is good. You know, I think to just keep proving it is, you know, it's quite good. You know, to keep proving I've got the speed, to keep proving I've got the best team there. You know, it's great for our confidence, and when we get more confident, then we'll win even more, so it's good.
Is it important for you to win these stages in order for the team to have confidence and continue to do the work in the finale?
Oh, absolutely, you know, it shows how diverse we are of a team, that we can win stages and we can go for GC, so when you can have that in the team, you've got lots of different plans you can go with. And